I'd like to call the Select Committee on Gaming to order. First order of business is roll call.
For the Select Committee on Gaming, May 14th, Senator Crago.
Here.
Senator McEwen.
Excused.
Representative Johnson.
Present.
Representative Webb.
Here.
Co-Chairman Lean.
Here.
Chairman Kolb.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to start off with the chairman's opening remarks. I'll start off and then the co-chair can speak if she would like to. I'd like to first thank everyone for being here. Thank staff. Most importantly, I think the directives from Management Council, just be clear about it, was to look into the revenue situation was one of the priorities, to review it, and frankly, in my opinion, to make sure it's fair for all parties involved, including obviously the state of Wyoming. And that's going to be one of the focuses during this interim. Also to clean up some language in the last passed legislation in one area that needs to be addressed or at least discussed to find out if that's really what this task force thinks is correct on gaming. That's probably a separate issue than, of course, HHR. The other part of this is it's come up and it's been a topic of discussion about a professional racing commission for the state of Wyoming and changing our current volunteer board to a professional board. That also is going to be a discussion. I would like to focus on those items, keep them down to maybe 4 or 5 bill drafts potentially, because all of our bill drafts have to go in front of Management Council. And then lastly, I'd like to add is this task force has been very successful. Last interim, 4 bills made it into being a law, and that's about a 3 or 4-fold increase of any success in the past years that have happened that are dealing with the gaming industry. And that's why there's a task force. So I'll just let that go at that. I want to thank everybody for being here and all the work in the industry, to the regulators, and to the legislative body itself and to the governor's office. And I would also, I guess at the end of our comments, Ms. Co-Chair, I would like to have the governor's office make a comment also. I think there's some time constraints that maybe have to be dealt with. So I would like the governor's office to come up after we comment to make a comment from their perspective. Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. To start with, I'd like to recognize that it's National Police Week, and our Wyoming Gaming Commission are all sworn officers. And so thank you for your duties, and thank you for all the responsibility you give to our community and making it a safer place. I'd like to recognize that we have the Wyoming Gaming Commission is also enforcing laws that have been on our books, and I want to thank them for that, because I know that that hasn't come easy, and then I know there's been some pushback, but enforcing the laws that are already on the books is what the legislature asks you to do, and so thank you for taking that on. I know that responsible gaming is very important, and I thank the committee for allowing us to put this on the agenda today. I look forward to speaking about it, and I want to wish you all a successful race season as we're getting ready to come into that time of year. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Sarah, would you want to come up and tell us what you'd like us to hear? Introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Sarah Dorenzo. I'm the governor's deputy policy director. I'm really glad to be here with the select committee this interim. The governor congratulates you on your work last legislative session, and thanks you for your commitment to ensuring that gaming is conducted fairly and protects the public in a well-regulated, predictable manner. And thank you for your time to provide some overall insights on the agenda today. Gaming is a welcome industry and contributes significantly to Wyoming's economy. The governor believes strong regulation is necessary to support this thriving economy and protect the wagering public and promote clear, ethical, transparent gaming environments. The governor is glad that the committee is spending some time this interim discussing problem gaming. Gaming should be fun. It should be a fun pastime and not a significant societal or economic cost. The governor believes that everyone who participates in or benefits from gaming has a role in responsible gaming. An elevated focus on the impacts that gaming has on individuals, communities, and the state as a whole is warranted. And industry is expected to work alongside communities, as they already do, and regulators to develop internal controls and resources to aid those who struggle with gaming. Our office supports more focus on how to educate the public about problem gambling and gaming behavior, and generally, what is a legal game in Wyoming and what is illegal. We support finding ways to more effectively use the Problem Gaming Fund and the pursuit to understand what more resources are needed by communities to prevent and treat problem gaming. Thank you for taking time to examine the tax structure. This is a very complicated topic, and spending time to understand the structure that we have in place now it will be imperative. As the landscape evolves, we do want to remain comparable to similar states with a fair taxation. Important to Wyoming, though, is to maintain a structure where local governments still retain their distributions. Gaming contributes significantly towards local revenues. And lastly, last session, the legislature helped clarify definitions in our gaming statutes and drew a clear distinction for the public between what is legal and illegal gaming. And that was a much needed change. Our rules around gaming should be clear and fairly applied. Wyoming should stand firm in the pursuit of protections and assurances to the public that they are playing a fair and legal game, and that proceeds or prize winnings are accurate and delivered to the intended sources. Since the legislative session, our office has fielded questions about Game of Hearts played for charitable purposes. And the governor's office is open to a conversation to learn more about how charitable organizations wish to participate in gaming. That policy decision lies with you, whether you wish to expand gaming for charitable purposes. But should that be expanded, reporting requirements and assurances for protection for the public that the game is fair must be in place with any expansion. Again, thank you so much for your work and your dedication on this topic, and I look forward to working with you over the interim.
Thank you, Mr. De Lorenzo. Any questions? No? Seeing none, thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
testimony. Next on the agenda are rules. Karen, would you like to go over them, or I'm sorry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Tamara Evely with LSO staff, and I can make this brief, so unless you want me to get up front, I don't have to.
You can do it from where you're sitting.
Certainly. So this is just a reminder that this committee was created pursuant to Management Council's authority to create committees. And as such, it's not a statutory committee, so it doesn't have authority to sponsor its own legislation. As Chairman Kolb recognized, the bills last year went through Management Council. It was a recommendation of the committee that they sponsor the bills, and those were presented to Management Council and then ultimately sponsored by Management Council and adopted by the legislature. We would anticipate the same process will be followed this year. Because the committee was constituted by Management Council last year and then constituted by Management Council again this year, wanted to make sure that the committee recognized that absent objection, we would just carry over the rules from the prior committee. And what those were is that the committee adopted the sample interim committee rules that are within Appendix A to the rules of the House and Senate, the joint rules of the House and Senate, to the extent applicable. So the only item that's not applicable is the issue of sponsoring legislation, because this committee cannot sponsor legislation. Otherwise, the rules provide for a chairman and a vice chairman, 15 days notice to call meetings, that a quorum of the committee may generally act on business. There's provisions for the order of business, requirement of notice of 15 days for a motion to reconsider, provisions for how subcommittees would be conducted, and that Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedures would apply. So to the extent there's no objection, we'll continue those rules unless the committee would like to adopt any amendments or changes.
Thank you, Mr. Ravelli. Any objection to the rules from the committee? Seeing none, they stay adopted. Thank you. Next, we have item 2 on the agenda, Wyoming gaming wagering revenues and statutory distributions. Mr. Laramundi, welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you need us to know.
Good morning, Chairman Cole, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nick Laramendi. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Gaming Commission. I've provided you all with a short presentation that we can go over here that talks about the wagering revenues, how those distributions look, some of the auditing practices that we use to verify those funds. We're going to run it on that side. And if we're ready, and if you're ready, sir, I can begin.
Continue. Thank you, Nick.
Members of the committee, so the historic horse racing, which is the largest revenue source that the Gaming Commission oversees, the total tax on historic horse racing is 1.9%. That's as broken down by a few different ways. That's based on total handle. And like I've testified before and explained to you all before, total handle is not cash in. Total handle is total amount of dollars played. So if a player inserts $1, spins one time and wins 5, plays that 5 back, the handle is actually $6, even though they only put $1 in. HHR is taxed on that total handle. So any free play, any bonus rounds, the money that they won and played back in is taxed at 1.9. The next slide. Of that 1.9%, it gets broke down in the following areas. The Breeders' Award Fund gets 0.4% of that. The state, which is our office, gets 0.25% of that. The LSRA gets 0.25% of that. And then the cities and counties get 1%. That equals up the total 1.9%. In addition to the 0.25% that the LSRA gets from that, every quarter, any monies in excess of $1.5 million in the Gaming Commission's account gets rolled over to the LSRA. So for the last four quarters, the commission has transferred over about an additional $4 million to the LSRA from that rollover account. The cities and counties, the 1% gets divided equally between the city and county where the machines are located, unless the location is only in the county. So currently, as it stands right now, we actually only have one location that's only in the county. It doesn't sit in municipal boundaries. So the county gets the full 1% of that one. But if it sits in the city limit, the county gets half and the city gets half. The next slide. So this is the betting process for historic horse racing. And I just kind of put this out as a flow chart so you can see the progression of how this works. So when a patron enters an OTB and they sit down at a terminal, they insert cash, they place their wager on that machine. At that time, the commission rate is taken right off the top of it. In parimutuel wagering, there is no house bet. So a lot of times when you talk about gaming, you'll always hear people say that they're playing against the house. In parimutuel wagering, there is no house. The house gets paid right off the top. That commission rate on average is about 8 to 9%. So for every dollar wagered in an HHR location, the operators take 8 cents. After they place that wager, the remainder of that money is put into pools. All of those pools are similar. So in the easiest way to explain it, the most popular machines that we have, they pull 3 race cards. So there's 3 different pools. So they put in $1, that money gets divided between those 3 pools. Goes to this race set, and this race set. So after they take the 8 cents off, there's 82 cents left, and that 82 cents gets divided by 3 and goes into those pools. The next one, after it gets put into those pools, the terminal will select a random race. In this case, 3 races. It selects 3 races at random. After it selects those races at random, the players are offered the ability to handicap those races just like they would at a racetrack. So if you go into a terminal, you can click the information button. You can look at past performance, earnings, speed indexes, things like that. And the player can actually select which order they want their horses to finish in. That doesn't happen most of the time. 99.9% of the time, they just hit the spin button. When they hit the spin button, it is doing it based on either post-time odds or morning line odds. So either a professional handicapper for morning line odds selected the order that they assumed that those horses were going to finish that day, or if they do it at post-time odds, you're banking on what the wagering public at that race at that time thought the finishing order would be. After the player either presses the spin button or selects the handicap, the fancy little wheels spin, and on all of the machines, you'll see somewhere on that machine, it's usually towards the top, you'll see either an animation or video replay of the horses that were selected. And then it shows the finishing seconds of that race. After the race is concluded, the machines look to your picks and the picks for the actual results, and that's how the winners are awarded. And that cycle just repeats over and over and over again. Is there any questions on that one?
Co-chair line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director, for being here today. My question is, how does the Gaming Commission follow the machines to make sure that the handicaps are available for being placed and that they're operating as an HHR machine and not as a slot machine?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, that's a great question. So we have agents in the field all day, every day. And when they do inspections, they do several different things. They're verifying signatures on these machines to ensure that they match the lab reports. So when these machines go through lab testing, we get ginormous reports. Some of these are 1,500 pages long, and it'll actually have software signatures that they pull to ensure all the different components of the machine. So when we have agents in the field, they'll key these machines, they will pull those software, they will compare it to the lab reports to ensure that the software is in fact has been approved by the commission. And then they will also go through and they do like physical testing of those machines to ensure that all of those machines have the ability to, touch the buttons. Everything comes out. They'll test it to where they can ensure that you can manually handicap those. If machines are found with the handicapping ability inoperable, those machines are placed out of service immediately.
Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, I have a question about the remainder of the wagers placed into the common pools. What is a common pool and what is paid out of it? What is it for? How?
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson. So the common pool is if you're at a racetrack and you're betting wins, like if you're just placing a wager for a win, all of those win bets go into one pool. If you're doing like a win play show, that kind of an exotic wager, all of those pools or all of that money for all of those similar bets are placed into another pool. So everybody is betting in a pool similar to what they're betting on. So if you're just betting wins, that's what you're betting, and you're betting against all of those other people that are just betting wins.
Follow up.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that 92 cents is paid out, that goes to the winners of the wager, right? Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson, that is correct. So when you look at parimutuel wagering, if they take the 8% commission, that 92% that's left over is the public's money and it goes back to the public. Now, it may take time for them to get that 92% back because it's all based on the results and the picks. So when somebody gets the correct picks, then they get that money. So that money is just pooled together. And then as those payouts take place, it comes off that. But Yes, the public gets 92% of that.
Follow up?
So, yeah, thank you. And so this is, this won't be one race. The people that eventually split that pot could be from 2 months or 3 months apart. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson, that is correct. Yep.
Ms. Webb, no, Mr. Webb. Did have a follow-up on that, Mr. Lamonde. Just could you explain how long it typically takes to pay a pool out? I mean, the pool's zero, or do they always carry a balance forward? Because when you have a pool of people betting, obviously it could take more than 2 months. It depends on I guess, the luck of the picks. But what typically is it, how does that pool fluctuate over time? Thank you.
Chairman Kolb, so that's a great question. So in HHR, they have something that's called seed pools. So when they start these terminals up, they have a seed pool, which is actually the operators or the vendors. They're actually pre-funding that pool, because if it started at zero, there would be no winnings and nobody would really want to pay those or play those. So they have the seed pool first, and then as people play, it kind of levels itself out. But a lot of times these pools stay pretty even keel. In fact, in just a couple of slides, you'll see what the total amount wagered was and what the total payout last year was. So the return to the public last year was $2.2 billion. So a lot of that money doesn't just sit. I mean, there are some pools that will stay, fairly large. We're talking 6 figures, maybe like $1 million for 30 days, but those payouts are taking place all day, every day. We get reports for every jackpot that's paid out over $10,000. We get reports on that. I get those all day, every day, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars across the state.
Yeah, thank you. Then a follow-up question on the seed pool. Do the operators get the seed pool money back? Like if they put in, I'll just say an arbitrary number, $10,000. Do they then recoup the $10,000 over time, or does that just stay with the machine in perpetuity?
Chairman Kolb, they do get that back. So it's like they're loaning that pool the money, and then as the pool builds up from players, then that money goes back to the operators.
Immediately?
No, it takes.
Is it like a percentage payback, like over time, so they level the pool out as a pool wouldn't drop below a certain critical amount for the payouts?
Chairman Kolb, it does take time. It's not immediately. It all fluctuates with the amount of money that's put into that pool. So they're all designed in certain percentages to where when the pool starts getting up to this, then percentages of that goes back to their coffers. But it doesn't. Yeah, it's not instantaneous.
Okay. Thank you. Proceed.
The next slide, please. So this here for the historic horse racing, this is kind of the auditing process that I wanted to highlight. So for historic horse racing, every week, it's every Wednesday, all of our operators have to file a report with our office. So they file that report with our office, and it shows the total amount of money wagered during the previous week. That report comes to our office, and then the commission contracts with a third-party auditor, which is called the TRPB, or the Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau. The Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau has direct access to the totes. Now, when I say totes, what I mean is a totalizer. So when we have different vendors out there, one of them is Exacta, one of them is Ainsworth. Those are totes. The totalizer works as it's a big accounting computer system that takes in the money, figures out the pools, divides the money out between the pools, does all of the accounting process. The TRPB has direct access to their back-end systems. So we get reports from the operators, and then we reconcile those together to ensure that the operators are reporting exactly what the machines are reporting. Next slide, please.
Director Lamonde?
Yes,
Just a question. Have you ever found a discrepancy during the audit process when you were going through what you just described?
Chairman Kolb, we have not. On the HHR side, we have not found a discrepancy. And actually, this is important too with the, we've had discussions in the past about central monitoring, which is something that we're still very actively looking at across the board. On the HHR side, the way that these machines are designed, they're all server-based. So there's a central point, because that's the tote. So there's a tote that manages all of that information, all of that wagering information. So the TRPB, which has direct access to those totes, they've also developed, and that's what you see here on this screen, they've also developed a reporting mechanism for our office that we can log into real time, and I can pull. If you look at this, it's kind of hard to see unless you have it in front of you. It shows the dates, the day of the week, the tote company, which is all the vendors that we use. I can go by individual operator. I can go by certain location, and I can pull real-time data for the wagering activity that's taking place in that location as we speak. So that's real-time reporting on the HHR side. They do it every Wednesday, but we can pull it anytime that we want to. Next slide, please. So for HHR, this is the revenues that have been created over the last 4 years, starting in 2022. So in 2025, which we had just finished off, the total handle for HHR was $2.49 billion. Of that $2.49 billion, the breakage amount was $579,000. The state commission was $6.2 million. That's what goes to our office, and that is what funds all our entire operations. We are 100% self-funded, and this is the bulk of the money that funds our agency. The LSRA got $6.2 million. Now that 6.2 is that 0.25%. That doesn't include the rollover amounts. So it was the 6.2 plus the additional 4 million that we rolled over from the 1.5. The Breeders' Award Fund received $9.9 million. The cities and counties received $24.9 million. And then the return to the public, which was the payout to patrons, was $2.2 billion. Is there any questions on the HHR revenues or the tax structure on HHR?
I don't see one, but I do have one, Director. The breakage. Now, I know statutorily it has to be under, I believe, 10%.
Chairman Kolb, it's 10 cents. The max
Well,
that they
$1.
can break on is a dime under statute.
10% on the
Yep.
dollar, right?
Yep.
Am I thinking, okay, as long as I'm thinking about this correctly. So, are they all at that number, percentage wise? I thought I had a conversation that they kind of varied. So could you kind of explain that to the committee that, I guess, is it the same? Is it not the same? And the break points and what they could be?
Chairman Kolb, you are correct. They vary. They vary from 1 cent to 5 cents to 10 cents and no cents. For example, we have one vendor that operates, and it's a growing vendor. They started fairly small, but they're starting to have a bigger footprint in Wyoming. They have zero breakage. The way that they've built their machines and the way that they divide up their money in their pools, there's no breakage. On the other platforms, depending on the math models, and this is where it gets extremely complex. Every machine has, and every game theme has specific math models. Those math models have built-in breakage amounts because of how they split those pools. So some of them are at a dime. The majority of them anymore are at a nickel or a penny. So it does vary across the board.
Director, could they make it zero, all of them, or would that be mathematically too difficult, or I guess redoing the software programming? What do you know about them going to all zero for breakage?
Chairman Kolb, I am not a software engineer, but I would argue that if one vendor was able to get it to where it's zero, I don't see why they couldn't make it zero.
Co-Chair Lean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What would be an advantage to them having the breakage at 10 cents over nothing?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, so the higher the breakage, the more revenue is generated from breakage. So if it breaks on it, so for example, on breakage, if you bet, or if you're getting, if you place a wager and then you win, say, $1.09, you're gonna get $1 and the operator gets 9 cents if they're breaking on a dime.
So would it be fair, Director, to call that just profit? To the
Chairman
operators?
Kolb, the breakage becomes gross profit for the operators, yes. Yeah, it's a part of their gross profit, yes.
And that is the people's money that placed the bet, Director. Is that true?
Mr. Chair, I would agree that that is the wagering public's money, correct?
Thank you. Could proceed. Oh, question. Representative Webb.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Laramendi, for being here. This may be a discussion for later in the day, but just to set the preface on it. With this chart that you're showing us right now, would things need to be changed statutorily? Like if we were to, for instance, want to take more money out or take a little bit of money out of the money that's returned out of the payout to return to some type of a special district or something like that. Would that have to be changed statutorily, or is that something that you guys can do?
Mr. Chair, Representative Webb, that would require a statutory change. Currently, those distributions and those rates that we retain are set in statute.
Oh, another question, Representative Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Laramendi. On this chart you're looking at, we start with 2.49 billion. You subtract the breakage, the state commission, Lizer fund, breeders award, amount returned to municipalities, and then the payout to the wagers, the people that are bidding. And that leaves $180 million. Is that, where does that go? Is that profit to the operators? What is that amount there?
Mr.
If
Chair,
I'm doing
Representative
this right,
Johnson, that would be gross profit.
Gross profit, yes.
Yep. Correct.
Okay.
Seeing other questions, proceed.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the next slide. So we're going on to the simulcast, and I have to apologize. It was pointed out to me last night, and I'm glad that it was, that this should actually mirror the same thing as a further one down. So the simulcast tax rates kind of fluctuate as well. The way that statute is written for the Breeders' Award, you have the 0.4% base, and then you have a very weird formula for, we call it a breeder's bonus for exotic wagers. So that's the Breeders' Award on simulcast is actually the 0.4 is the base. But then when you factor in the breeder's bonus based on exotic wagers for live simulcasting, and this is specific to live simulcasting. This is not HHR. This is live races that you're wagering at the OTB. On average, last year's average, it was actually 0.6% for 2025 for the Breeders' Award. It's the 4 plus 0.2% for all the exotic wagers. And then that 1.5% that goes to the state, that comes to the commission office. That goes into our standard account, and then it's part of that rollover for the 1.5. Next slide, please. This one is a little bit more simple than an HHR machine, just because there's not as many steps involved. So for simulcast wagering, if you go to an off-track wagering location, you walk up to like their ticket counter or their cashier's counter, you'll see tote machines, and it'll show a list of races that are available. Most of those races, you'll see them on the television screen at the same time. You can insert money into that machine, or you can talk to the teller behind the counter. You give them the money, you tell them what you want to place your wager on. If you're, let's just say, a win to make it simple, you want the number 5 horse to win, give them the money, they print you out a ticket, and you go watch the race. If you put money into the machine and do it without a teller, it's the same thing. Insert the dollar into it, press this horse for a win, and then you go watch the race. The commission comes right off the top of that race. For simulcasting, these commission rates kind of vary a lot, and a lot of it's done based on contracts. So if an operator is accepting races from another state, they're the host and we are the guest. The operators enter into contracts with the host that is hosting that race, and they determine what those rates are going to be, what those percentages are going to be. On live racing, a lot of times it could be anywhere between 9 and 20%, depending on the type of wager, and every wager type is different. So like a simple win play show is lower than these super exotic wagers. The takeout rates for those is higher, but that varies across the board. Under Wyoming statute, the max takeout rate is set at 35%. At no time can an operator ever take out more than 35%. So even if they're doing a contract with another racetrack across the state line somewhere, if we got a contract in our office that showed a takeout rate of over 35%, the operator would not be allowed to accept that race. They wouldn't be allowed to do wagers in Wyoming on that because it would go above that 35% max that Wyoming has.
Director, just a point of clarification for the public that is listening. Could you refrain from using acronyms too much? Like when we talk about some of these things, I think if some folks are listening in, they're going, what is a tote? What are they referencing? So for the sake of the public, could you translate that into what it is instead of an acronym? If you could, please. I just would like to point that out because I think some folks just may not be able to follow it.
Chairman Cope, I will do my best.
I understand.
Do my
it
best.
Comes naturally to you, but and co-chair line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it frequently that we have races that we cannot bet on because of that 35% cap?
Chairman Cole, Madam Chair, I've never seen it happen since I've been here. Chairman Cole, along those lines, I think it's also important to remember that those takeout rates, statutorily, they could even go up to 35% on an HHR machine. But if you go up to 35% as a takeout rate, that means 35 cents of every dollar goes to the operator. That leaves 65% that goes back to the public. If you think of traditional class 3 Vegas gaming, those machines, those are random number generated machines, but they have what's known as compensating algorithms. So those machines, even though it's random, they know how much they need to pay out to the public. So you go to Las Vegas, you're going to get a slot machine. They pay out about 92% to the public. 92% of all the money that goes into those machines gets paid out. HHR is almost exactly the same. If they go too high on those takeout rates, it's less appealing to the public. The public's not going to want to play because the payouts are going to be less often and less money. So they really do keep it at that lower level of the takeout. Same thing for live racing.
Question, Director. I thought the state statute said a minimum of 92 for HHR of payback. Is probably different rules, but explain to me why it's a different set of rules for this up to 35% in this situation.
Mr. Chair, if I can have 1 second, I can pull the statute, but the statute currently says that an operator shall not have a takeout rate in excess of 35%. So let me pull the statute. Give me 1 second.
I didn't mean this. You were misquoting, Director. What I meant was I thought there was another form of I thought it was 92% in some other form of gaming that has to be a minimum payback. I don't have it at the top of my head. I was hoping for your expertise there, but I can look it up. But I just was wondering the correlation between the differences if I had that percentage correctly.
Chairman Kolb, so the only one that we have a statutorily required payback to the player is actually for charitable bingo. Charitable bingo requires 65%, a minimum of 65% of the total gross wagered that month be paid back to winnings in bingo. But on HHR, there's a statutory maximum that they can withhold, but there's no set that it has to pay out 92%.
Okay. Thank you.
Next one, please. So the auditing for simulcasting is similar to HHR. They file those reports with our office every Wednesday. The operators send us a report. Our third-party auditor, the Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau, has access directly to those machines. They pull those reports directly from the totalizer companies, and then we reconcile those together. Next slide, please. So this is the simulcast revenues over the last 4 years. Keep in mind, again, this is live simulcasting. So this is betting on live horse races, not historic horse races. So in 2025, the total handle was $5.2 million. The breakage of that 5.2 was 16,000. The commission, which was our office, received $78,000. The Breeders' Award Fund received $34,000. And then the return to the public was $3.6 million. Next one, please. So moving past the HHR and the simulcast, this is for live racing. So this would be at the racetracks that we operate here in Wyoming. The total tax collected for live racing is 1.9% plus the breeder's bonus. So the state gets 1.5, then you get the 4% base breeder's award fund, and then the breeder's bonus, which that percentage varies based on the exotic wagers. This is exactly what the one right above it should have said, but I missed that when I read through this 26 times before I sent it. Next slide, please. Wagering at live racing is the same as wagering on a live race at an OTB. You go up to a machine or you talk to a teller, you give them your money, the commission rate comes right off the top. You make your selections, your picks, that money gets divided into equal pools or common pools. And then at the end of the race, once the winners are decided, you'll know if you have a winner or not. Next one, please. The live racing auditing process is the same for as simulcasting and HHR. They file a report with our office every Wednesday. The TRPB, the Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau, has direct access to those totalizer companies. So they pull those reports directly from the totalizer systems. We get the reports, we reconcile those. Next slide, please. So in addition to the HHR reporting that we have access to, that our office has access to the real time, the Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau also grants us access to the live racing and simulcasting reports that are real time. So we can go into this report here and I can run a date. For example, if we ran last weekend, I can go on Sunday and I can pull the report for that weekend and I can get that much quicker than Wednesday. I don't have to wait till Wednesday. I can get it the same day. Next slide, please. So this is the live racing revenues over the last 4 years. You'll see for 2025, the total handle for live racing was $3.5 million. The breakage on that was 34,000. The state commission, which was to our office, is 53,000. The Breeders' Award received 23,000. And then the return to the public or the payout was 2.7 million. I think it's interesting to see.
Director had a question. Co-Chairman Lane.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt your
Nope.
thought. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to ask about race days. This 54 race days, is that 4 vendors? Is that 3 vendors for 2025?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, that was 3 operators.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd also state that, so all 4 of those years that you see, those were all for three operators.
Thank you.
The one thing that I just wanted to point out on this one, which for me is very exciting, if you look at the total handle between 2024 and 2025 at the live meet, increased almost $1 million. I know a few of you, I was able to go with you to the racetrack, the west side of the state, I suppose I will say. In the summertime during the race meet, that is a very happening place. That anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people a day attend that race meet. It's become very, very popular there, and it's really exciting to see that. Next slide, please.
And Director, could I just elaborate a little bit on the west side of the state issue? They're pulling in people from Utah. Is that where a lot of those folks come from?
Chairman Kolb, yes, lots and lots of people from Utah. If you go there on a weekend of racing, I will actually tell you, so we're going to start racing there in the first part of next month. I've already been told that people are getting ready to bring campers. That racetrack has a designated camping area for those patrons that want to come. Those folks will bring their campers. They will set them up. They will leave them there all summer long, and they will be there every weekend. But you go through that parking lot, and it is a lot of Utah plates, if not all Utah plates. Next one, please. So the next one is advanced deposit wagering, which is what we refer to that as ADW. Advanced deposit wagering is a form of pari-mutuel wagering where the account holder residing in Wyoming can establish an account, they fund that account, and then they bet from that account. Think of this as like TVG or FanDuel racing on your TV. You can create an account, you enter your bank information, you can deposit money into your account, and then as races are taking place, you can get on your app or on their website, and you can bet on races across the country, across the world a lot of times. Of the 3% that is obtained from the advanced deposit wagering, the Breeders' Award Fund gets 0.3%. The state gets 0.15%. The OTB operators get 0.3%. And then purse enhancement gets 2.25%.
Question, Co-Chair Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, when this says that they can be placed by telephone or other electronic media, how does the Gaming Commission protect individuals from nefarious actors?
Chairman Kolb, Madam Chair, so all of our ADWs are licensed with us, and they all have in their operational plans, they have, I just lost the word. All of their plans that show data integrity and how they keep all that stuff safe.
Thank you.
Director, I had a question. Was this statutorily created, or is this a rule by the Gaming Commission? The advanced deposit wagering.
Chairman Kolb, so the advanced deposit wagering is authorized under state statute. And then the way that one was written, it gives the commission the ability to set the source market fee, which is what that 3% is, up to 10%. So the commission has the ability to go up to 10% for the source market fee. But those breakouts, the 3%, the 0.15, the 0.3, that's all statutorily done.
And does that coincide with other states' advanced deposit wagering percentages?
Chairman Kolb, I would have to do some digging onto that one. That's not one that I've looked into much. And the reason being, when we get to the advanced deposit wagering slide, it's not a lot of revenue. It's not a big revenue generator for the state or anybody involved.
Thank you.
Next one, please. So this is the betting process for the advanced deposit wagering. Again, this is a very similar to live racing, except you are opening an account in advance. After you open that account, you fund that account, then you can go and you place your wagers just like you would at the racetrack. Next slide, please.
Well, Director, just I would like to have $4.9 million. Seems like I realize it's not a lot compared to the HHR, but it is certainly not inconsequential in dollar figures. So if you could look into that, what the surrounding states do to make sure we're in line with what is normal industry practice, I think that would be a benefit to the committee, task force, excuse me. Continue.
Chairman Cope, I will get that done. So on the advanced deposit wagering for auditing, they don't do weekly reports, they do monthly reports. So every month they file a report. And again, this falls in line with all of the other parimutuel auditing processes that we do. The advanced deposit wagering operators file a report with our office. And then the Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau has direct access. And then we reconcile those reports to ensure that everything matches. Next slide. And we also have the ability with advanced deposit wagering to check real time all of those wagering activity reports as well. Next slide. So for the advanced deposit wagering, the total wagers in 2025 was 4.9 million. Advanced deposit wagering, and I will have to look to get the total payout to the public. I will get those numbers for you, Chairman Cole. Next slide, please.
Oh, we have another question. Co-Chair Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I look through this for total wagers all the way down, we're missing $4.8 million. Where does it go?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, I don't think I understand your question.
Mr. Chairman, Director, at the total wagers of 4.9, and then if you just take out all of the fees that are tied to that with the OTB operators and the purse enhancements, the state fees, we're missing approximately $4.8 million. Does that go back to is that payouts? Does that go into another pot somewhere?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, that's, I need to look that one up to see what the payout on that, the payout to the public was. I can pull that. I should be able to pull that actually while we're on lunch and get that number for you.
Thank you.
Because after we get the payout to the public, then we'll know what their gross profit was.
Yeah, thank you, Director. Just get back to us when you look into that. Thank you. Proceed.
Mr. Chair, so that wraps up all of the parimutuel side of revenues. Is there any other questions before I go to the skill-based amusement games?
Seeing none, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the skill-based amusement games, the total tax collected on skill-based amusement games is 20% of the weekly net proceeds. Of that 20%, the city and county gets 45%. The school foundation program account gets 45%. And then the gaming commission receives 10%. Next slide, please. The skill-based amusement game vendors file a report with our office every week. Our office is solely responsible for tracking all of the revenue on skill-based amusement games. We are currently actively looking for multiple ways that we can do third-party central monitoring for these types of things. There's different ways that we can approach that, and we're kind of vetting that out right now. But as it stands today, the vendors submit written reports to our office, and then we have field agents and we have an auditor that can go out into the field. They can key these machines and they can verify or do a physical audit to ensure that this machine matches what the report said it was, to ensure that they're reporting correctly. Next slide, please. So this is the annual revenues for skill-based amusement games. So in 2025, this one gets kind of confusing too. So the revenue isn't really revenue for the operators. This is the total cash played on skill-based amusement games. So the net proceeds though for skill-based amusement games, that's the important part because that's what they're taxed on, is the net proceeds. So the net proceeds that all of our vendors received in 2025 was $30.6 million. Of that 30.6, the school foundation program account received $2.7 million. The gaming commission received $612,000. And then cities and counties received $2.7 million. The return to the public was $103 million. So That 103 million off the revenue that comes to their net proceeds. Is there any questions on the skill-based amusement game side?
Representative Webb?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I presume the split between the municipalities, city and county is the same for the skill-based amusement revenues as it was earlier on the, when you mentioned the parimutuel. Where you had mentioned earlier about if a city and a county both have a location, that it's split between the city and the county. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Representative Webb, that is correct. Yes,
And this is the same way?
correct.
Okay, can I have a follow-up, please?
Follow up.
Okay, what if there is a county that has two cities? So that there's two cities that have locations and there's also a location in the county. Is that split three ways then?
Mr. Chair, Representative Webb, so it would just go with it would be split between the county and then the municipality that the game is actually in. So for example, Natrona County, since that's where we're based out of, we've got Natrona County, then we've got the city of Casper, we've got the city of Mills, we've got the city of Evansville. All of those, depending on where, like the county gets their portion across the board, and then each municipality gets theirs for what games are in their jurisdictional boundaries.
Thank you. That makes sense now.
All right, thank you. Continue.
Mr. Chair, online sports wagering is the last one that I have for you. So
Director, sorry, I'll back up a second.
Oh.
The auditing process for the skill-based amusement games. I know you've been working on that. I know you haven't gotten anywhere. So I think the first question I have for you is, are you able to write a rule to require auditing for skill-based amusement games, independent third-party auditing?
Chairman Kolb, so we have current rules in place for annual audits at our discretion. So we can require them to do annual audits as well. We've also implemented or promulgated rules for central monitoring that says that if we can get to that point to where we procure a central monitoring system, they are required by rule to connect to those central monitoring systems.
Follow up on that would be, why is the state paying for that? Why are we paying for the central monitor? Why are we trying to figure out how to pay for software requirements when in fact that question would be is, can you require them to pay for said software and not the state of Wyoming to pay for it to audit their systems? That's my question.
Chairman Kolb, I have been told that we don't have the authority to pass that fee on. That's what I've been told. I've been told that the way that the legislation is written, it is very specific on what we can collect and how we collect that, and that's not part of that.
So you need a statutory change and able to do that.
Chairman Kolb, that would be correct.
All right, thank you. Continue. Oh, I have a question.
Thank you.
Co-Chairman Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to these skills-based games, are some manufactured skills games easier to monitor than others?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, yes, in some cases they are. Let me correct that. It depends on how we look to monitor them. So there's two real avenues that we can go down. There's a software road that we can go down that we can do this via software, and a software, they're all basically probably fairly easy to do. If you go the hardware route, which is what a lot of gaming jurisdictions use as a hardware, to where a commission or a regulatory body installs a piece of hardware into these machines that they control, and they get information directly from what's called the meters in the machine. That's all of the computers that is tracking everything. If it's hardware based, there is some that are definitely easier, and there are some that are going to be very difficult because currently they don't have the hardware equipment built into their machines that would allow us to do the hardware. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Co-Chair. On the auditing side of it, or maybe the verification side of skill-based games to make sure, quote unquote, it's a skill-based game. Is there a third party that verifies that out in the world that says company X is program qualifies for skill-based? And a second question to that is, what are your rules that qualify for skill-based? I mean, how did we get to saying this is a skill-based game? Probably a broader question. What data do we have that proves that, and what criteria do you have to comply to say it is in fact a skill-based game?
Chairman Kolb, so the answer to both is yes. So all of these games are also, just like an HHR game, they're required to go through independent lab testing, gaming lab testing. So the vendors of these games will go to a gaming laboratory. The gaming laboratory will go into these games. They will test these games. Then they present the commission with a report of their findings and what they've determined it to be skill, how they've determined it to be skill. And then the commission reads that report and our rules. I don't have our rule book in front of us, but we do have several things in our rules that says, like if your game just does this, that's not a skill game. It has to incorporate several different things. And then we go through and we verify that it meets our regulatory specifications as skill. And the lab also says that it's skill before these games are approved.
Thank you. Could you explain to the public what your definition of a skill-based game is? I mean, what does that actually mean? Like, does it mean, I don't know, you have to have a memory to remember a certain set of pattern? I mean, what does that actually mean so the public can understand what a skill-based game is?
Chairman Kolb, so in the way that we look at this is our skill-based amusement games. If you play these games correctly or all the way through, you can win 100% of the time. All of these games have, they'll display puzzles. So it's either memory retention or it's pattern recognition. So you can, easiest way to put it is tic-tac-toe. So if you make a tic-tac-toe, then you win. If you don't win that one, there's other games that you can play on the backside of that, which are memory retention games. You follow lights and click buttons. And so the player interacting with that game, it is the player's skill that determines if you win or lose.
Thank you. Proceed, Director.
Mr. Chair, that would be all for skill-based amusement games. Is there any other specific questions for that?
No, seeing none. Proceed.
Mr. Chair, so the last one we have is the online sports wagering. So online sports wagering, the total tax collected from online sports wagering is 10%. Of that 10%, the first $300,000 of revenue generated goes to the Department of Health for problem gaming. The remainder of the money goes to the state treasurer and then goes to the general fund. The Gaming Commission doesn't get any of the revenues generated from taxes on that. The only money that the Gaming Commission retains from online sports wagering is vendor application fees. So that's the $100,000 for the primary every 5 years, and then their $50,000 renewal. And then $10,000 for a vendor and $5,000 for their 5-year renewals. The next slide. Oh, you're already there. These ones are similar to ADWs. They report on a monthly basis, not a weekly basis. So they file a report with our commission showing the total amount of money wagered, all of their winnings paid out, their non-cash winnings, any voided or canceled wagers. Again, in the online sports wagering realm, the commission is the one that tracks all of the wagering information and data. The way that we've promulgated rules for auditing on sports wagering side of it, the sports wagering, all of our operators for sports wagering must have their internal control procedures independently audited every 2 years, and those results have to be sent to the commission. So their internal controls is everything. It's all of their accounting, it's their financials, it's how their systems keep track of all of that wagering. It's all of it. So every 2 years, they have those independently audited. There are firms out there that specialize in this type of activity, and then those audits come to us. Next slide, please.
We have a question. Co-Chair Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the first page of the sports wagering at the bottom note there's a note that says the first 300,000 funds are problem gaming through the Department of Health. Am I correct in understanding that this is the only gaming entity that is paying for problem gambling? Problem gaming.
Chairman Cole, Madam Chair, I don't believe so. Now, this is the only one that's coming from our office directly, but I do also believe that the Wyoming Lottery Corporation also submits money to that. But now I don't know if they submit theirs to the Department of Health, or if, I'm not sure how theirs works because I'm not involved in that one. But this is the only that comes from our office.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide, please. So this is the online sports wagering revenues for the last 4 years. The total wagers for 2025 was 234 million. Of that 234 million, 207 million was paid back out to the public. Their gross gaming revenue was 27 million, and their adjustable tax revenue was 18.4 million.
We have Representative Johnson, then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Craig.
I see here the non-cash payouts. What is that? And also, you have gross adjusted gaming revenue and adjusted. What adjustments do you take out of the gross to allow it to be taxable? Those two questions there. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson, so the non-cash payouts are any sort of bonuses, all that. There's a plethora, and I can pull our rule book to show what all those are. But the majority of that, it'd be like, you see them all the time on ads. Bet 5, get 500. I'm just throwing that one off. I don't think it's ever been 500, but those are non-cash winnings. And then the gross gaming revenue, they also have federal excise tax that they get to take off the top of their gross gaming revenue for their adjustable tax revenue.
Thank you.
Senator Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, just curious, so what's the 10%? What's that number based off of? Is that based off of the adjusted taxable gaming revenue then? The amount that goes to the state?
Mr. Chair, yes, it would be. Yep.
Is there anything else? Follow up, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Follow up.
Apologize. Director, so is there anything else that creates the difference between the 27 million and the 18 million based gross to adjusted? You said excise tax, but that would be a 33% excise tax. Is that what the excise tax is, or is there something else that goes into that reduction in number?
Mr. Chair, Senator Craig, I will get that information to you because I can actually send you one of their attestation reports that shows exactly how they have to report all of their breakdowns. And that'll maybe help make it much more clear.
Then I have a follow-up question on the non-cash payouts. It sounds like non-cash payouts is advertising money that you gave for free bets. Is that part of it or all of it?
Chairman Kolb, that's part of it. Again, so I'll get that attestation report because that'll also help clear up the non-cash payouts part, because it has all the breakdowns that they give for their bonus or their I don't think they call them bonuses, but their marketing dollars and all that other stuff. I can get all that to you.
Thank you. Just for the edification of the task force here, this has been a controversial issue about statutorily, and then the rules that were promulgated over this after the statutes were passed. And it was about the ability to write off these costs when it came to, like, $50 or whatever it might be that you're getting quote unquote free money to game. They're writing it off and carrying that loss forward, which then decreases the amount of revenue that goes to the state of Wyoming. And so this has been talked about as an issue. So I hope we'll look into this as the state progresses as a potential area that we could clean up. Or possibly the gaming commission could just do it by rules. But we're not there quite yet. Just to make everybody aware, this has been an ongoing conversation. I shouldn't say battle, but it's been, you know, between and the legislatively over the years about how we got here in this situation. So there is an issue here that I think deserves discussion amongst this task force on what we think about this, and at least to give an opinion to the gaming commission on is this right or wrong to let people basically promote the gaming activities by giving away free gaming money. Basically, you get $50 to spend, I guess, on some sort of bet. And then they write that off against the state's side of the equation for revenue, which basically it seems like you'd write off quite a bit because you wouldn't pay the state, you would advertise and promote your activity, which I can understand to a certain extent. But I think if I categorize that kind of right, Director, what's your opinion about, would you say it differently?
Chairman Kolb, I would not say it differently. The only thing that I would remind you is earlier when we had talked about on the HHR side of it, the total handle, those operators are taxed on total handle. So any bonus play, any free play, anything that they do for promotional, they're paying taxes on it.
So you wouldn't call them equal then, I guess, in the way I'm trying to thinking that for the state of Wyoming's sake, that we have to look at equality. Basically, we should treat different types of gaming in a similar way. Would you agree with that, or what would be your opinion?
Chairman Kolb, I would agree. I would agree that the more equal that we can get it across the board, the better for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Director. We have a question. We have a couple questions. I think, well, co-chair first, Lean, and then Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you just remind me, the 10%, that is statutorily fixed for sports wagering?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you brought up something that we want to make all these gaming streams of revenue equal. And their online sports wagering gives $300,000 to mental health issues. And you also said Lotto gives some, I think that's 250,000. But my question to you is that these are not the real issues, the mental health issues. It's the online, it's the HHR machines where you can really spend a lot of money and get in a lot of trouble. And I think that we need to somehow start paying for that benefit to the public to help them, you know, with the mental health issues. You have infrastructure issues. You have a lot of issues that law enforcement that I don't think we're paying for throughout all of our gaming. So I would just, if you could just let me know what you think about that.
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson, so I would agree that right now, online sports wagering is the only funding stream that we have for problem gaming. That's definitely a policy decision that you all could look at to see if, because currently right now, like I said, those percentages and those distributions are set by statute. There's nothing that we could do internally to make that happen.
Can you?
Mr. Chair, that's all that I have for my presentation.
We have some more questions. We have Senator Crago.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, just so we're clear, what's the state's revenue on online sports gambling?
Mr. Chair, Senator Craig, give me 1 second and I can tell you what it was for 2025 here. Give me 1 second here. This isn't working. Mr. Chair, Senator Craig, so the total that was due to the state for online sports wagering in 2025 was 1.852 million. So the general fund would have received about 1.5 million.
Co-Chair Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that Wyoming does not allow iGaming, predictive markets, or sweepstakes, but I was wondering if we have some time, if you could speak to the committee about that, whether now or after break, if the chairman's allows it.
Oh, that's, yeah, it's not an issue. Well, we got Director Laramundi up here in the hot seat. We don't want to let you go too early and feel we don't care about you. So, but there's that. But before, I think another question I had, or maybe a source, a point of information. Maybe we can, the co-chair and I can work with you in this gap between meetings to kind of get a better flow chart here about the total revenue when it comes to these different mechanisms of gaming that we have in the state of Wyoming. So it can be laid out more clearly with percentages. So we can see the percentages as they relate to the overall revenue to the state and also to the Gaming Commission. I mean, it's complex, I realize, but we need, I think, develop a flow chart that we can follow and see how this money actually looks. And I say that in balance with the question, so we can compare that to other states, percentages to other states for revenue. Are we in line with those states? I mean, I realize it's complex because we do that, we have different mechanisms to how we do it. So it's not a straightforward numbers for percentages, because we do the hand. I mean, there's a bunch of, we do it differently here in Wyoming. But I think the big ask is that we need to be able to evaluate, and we being this task force, on where we sit in the world being in the United States of America, on how we're handling gaming activities in our state, and probably in balance with our population. I mean, it's a little more, it's nuanced. And of course, when you give it to politicians, Lord knows what your answer might be, but I think the numbers are going to bear out a direction. And I think we need that if we're going to fill in the blanks for any sort of proposed legislative change. We need to know what the world of reality is. I mean, and be able to make a decision based on these numbers. And, not to be punitive, but to be fair. So I think we probably have to kind of get after this again and be a little, I think, a clearer way of understanding it, Director. That would be my take on this numbers. I think people realize here the complexity of this and the different types of gaming activities that we're facing here, and they're not all the same, and we're treating them, frankly, differently. And and the big question is that really right? Should we be doing what we're doing in the way we're doing it? And so I think we need your help. We need your help to understand these numbers more clearly. I know you've presented to us facts, but in order to digest that, I think we're going to need a little more visual way of seeing it, so it's more understood. Do you think you could help us out with that?
Chairman Cope, I'd be happy to. Yep.
Okay. That would be my take. And then Co-Chair Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you talk to us a little bit about the Breeders' Award and what that looks like for your office to break down any of the payouts?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. So the Breeders' Award Fund this year, when you add them up from HHR, simulcasting, live event, the advanced deposit wagering, it was just over $10 million. So that $10 million is being paid out to the participants of the Wyoming Bred program. That is also a very complex process that we are working diligently on streamlining. Part of the issues that we've run into this year is, just over the last couple of years, that program has went from a $4 million program to a $10 million program. We went from tracking, maybe I think there was 127 participants that were receiving payouts to 270 people. So the system that we currently have in place is antiquated. I will say, antiquated is probably the best term for it. We were I feel very blessed through the budget session to be granted some spending authority to procure a new licensing database. That new licensing database is going to help streamline this and the accounting of this and make it all very much more simple. Currently, right now, this is a lot of manual inputting of data, looking at race results, tracking horses, entering that all, pen to paper type stuff. So.
Follow up.
Thank you, Director. When you say you went from 127 participants to 270, is that the number of horses or is that the number of individuals that own horses that come into that program?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, that's the number of human participants now taking part in that program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Follow-up question on one of my favorite topics, purses from HHR and percentages paid to said purses. What do other states do? Or is there a minimum floor to these percentages? I mean, is there a mechanism that you're aware of that we could look into that would guarantee a minimum amount of money paid out to purses?
Chairman Kolb, yes, there is. There's several other jurisdictions that have it statutorily mandated that X percentage of handle goes to purses. So, I mean, and I can get those jurisdictions and those percentage amounts for other jurisdictions to you. But yes, there is other states that have it statutorily set as a percentage.
I think that needs to be looked into a bit. I think once again, it's a matter of fairness. And today it could be fair and tomorrow it might not be fair. But I think we did the purses, the live horse racing, the only reason why we have HHR. So I think that that's just part and parcel with doing business. So if, I think that would be a good topic of information to see just what that looks like. And once again, it's not to be punitive or take advantage of anyone. If anything, it's to do the opposite of that. And so I think that would be good information. Maybe you could gather that up on just what those numbers do look like for percentages for floors. Because that would take am I right? It would take a statutory change to do that.
Chairman Kolb, it would, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Director. We have a controversy on questioning. Co-Chairman Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to charitable gaming, can you talk to me about what that looks like within your office and how you're administering that now?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, so charitable gaming is legal so long as the operators are licensed with our office. Let me back up a little bit. So bingo and pull tabs are legal for a charitable organization who have been in existence for 3 years in Wyoming and licensed with our office. Calcuttas are legal if they are licensed and it is conducted by a bona fide charitable organization as well. Those are the only 3 types of charitable gaming that are legal.
Well, just to interject in here, we are going to discuss this later, and you're going to be around, Director, to discuss this topic on the statutory change we just went through.
Chairman Kolb, I will be here until we're done.
So we'll have quite a robust discussion on that, I think. So that's a good opportunity for that. But thank you for your willingness to be here, because that'll be fully vetted, I guess, is what I want to say to the task force.
Can I ask Alyssa a question?
Sure. Certainly, Co-Chairman Lean.
For the LSO, I know that appropriations had something with gaming in their committee, and I'm sorry I didn't have time to follow it. Do you have a recap on what appropriations took up this last week? I believe it was the Breeders' Award, maybe?
Thank you, Co-Chairman Lane. Yes, the Joint Appropriations Committee met at the beginning of this month. And they did consider a bill draft that would address a budgetary issue, and that is for the Breeders' Award funding. When the statutes were written, the statutes direct the percentage of the Breeders' Award that is paid by the operators, and directs defines Breeders' Award and where that money goes. That is typically, at least in recent years, needed to be appropriated, come through the agency's budget request and been appropriated. The Joint Appropriations Committee wanted to look at two funds in particular, this being one of those, to have it continuously appropriated for the purposes that are specified. So not a policy change exactly, more of a change in how that Breeders' Award is budgeted. Since the statute covers what the money can be used for and how much is going to be collected and how it's going to be collected and distributed, the Joint Appropriations Committee wanted to look at moving that off of the appropriations request, and it would still be accounted for and trackable, but just not necessarily made affirmatively in each budget request.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Co-Chair. And on that note, if I'm not aware of any other potential pending bill drafts in other committees, but if there is, I don't know if there would be, as long as we be kept abreast of what they're doing, so we can not do duplicative work, or we could then be a fail-safe if that said legislation failed. We could talk about it here, but just to keep us in the loop, I think would be beneficial. And with that, we're right on time. Oops, we have another comment. I guess we're not leaving anywhere. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to bring up, this whole HHR was to promote horse racing, live horse racing throughout the state. And if you could just tell me the process of allowing an operator in a northeast county to use some of his race days in one of the counties in the western part of the state. I don't understand that. I think somehow you might be, just tell me how that process worked and how it got to be 6 days here and 10 days there, and in addition to the track's regular days. And I'll have some follow-up questions on that. Thank you.
Chairman Cole, Representative Johnson. So according to Wyoming Gaming Commission rules, an operator must run a minimum of 16 days. It doesn't say where those 16 days have to be run. Actually, historically, before 2022, there's an operator here who can speak way better to it than I can. They always ran like 6 days here and 10 days here. They split their race meet between multiple jurisdictions. But in this specific instance, they had applied for their 16 days. And when they brought that before I think they applied for 18 days. 18 days. When they brought that before the commission, they informed the commission that they wanted to run 6 days in the northern part of the state and then the other 12, and the commission considered that, and the commission approved that. So again, like I said, commission rules doesn't mandate that they run 16 days at any specific location or all 16 days at a specific location. It's just a total of 16 days in the state.
Thank you. So,
Follow up.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for any reason at all, you could switch to another track. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I think what I'm getting at is that the operator in the Northeast did not own their track, and they were having, I don't know, this is just conjecture, I don't know, but they would make more money if they did not pay for that county-owned track. And they combined together. So now there is one entity that has actually 32 days, right? Isn't that one entity that is actually using the system to actually have more race days? I just think that we're excluding a part of the state, and if we're going to make horse racing popular or something that people want to see, I think that we need to have them throughout the state and not allow the Gaming Commission or whoever to switch things like that. I think that's I think we're getting into that free market system and we need to stay out of that. Just let that go. Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative Johnson. I think we could obviously promulgate rules. The Gaming Commission has, well, excuse me, promulgate statutes. I think maybe we could, if Nick, or if you, I guess, you explain, I guess, your position on this. We maybe have Mr. Ridgway, or if they would like to speak of this. I mean, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Be back at 10:15. But after that, I think if Mr. Ridgway was willing to speak about, I guess, how this works for your situation, I think that'd be beneficial to the task force. Stay in the wings, Director Laramonde, and let's 10-minute break back at 10:15. position is. Thank you.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Kyle Ridgway. I'm the president of Wyoming Downs and 307 Horse Racing here in Wyoming. And so my role is to have primary responsibility as the head executive for all of our operations in Wyoming, live racing, historic horse racing, and the like. So to address the live racing questions, and then I had a couple of points that I can make about some of the testimony earlier, just specific to some of those questions to provide some industry specific feedback without wasting the committee's time too much. So I was involved with 307 Horse Racing from the beginning, and we had a 5-year lease at the Camplex to run our race meet at that track. In 2020, was it 2025? In 2025, my ownership group merged with the acquirer of Wyoming Downs to take those 2 licenses and make them one company. So we have partners from Kentucky Downs, the existing Kentucky Downs operation, and then my group known as 307 First, which focuses on investing in and growing Wyoming companies, partnered together with a group out of Canada called Clairvest to clean up our assets here in Wyoming, offer first-class gaming, and really commit to do this properly. So it was our partners understood that to do business well in Wyoming, you have to have people that are from Wyoming, that understand Wyoming, and have a physical apparatus out here, because we are just one small town with really long roads. And it's difficult to manage something like this from really, really far away. So as we went through our lease renewal in 2025 with the Camplex, with some changes in their general management, we ran into some issues at the track. And now that we were merged with Wyoming Downs, we started to see the economic benefits of what was going on in Evanston at that track. And you heard Director Laramendi talk about that last year. So our group has committed millions of dollars of capital to that track, redoing the grandstand, adding signage, building new barns, all kinds of things to expand that meet. And so in Gillette, the meet was never really supported at the level that we would have expected or liked, despite our advertising. You know, you'd have a couple hundred people at that track. In Evanston, you have, as you heard, thousands of people from out of state. And so if we think about what makes sense from an economic development perspective for Wyoming, we can have a vigorous debate or discussion about what's right. Should we have 10 small tracks or 1 or 2 really large tracks? Our position is having larger tracks at this point in the industry makes sense for Wyoming, because we are competing in Wyoming. You know, we sometimes forget that we're part of a broader region that we compete for business with. So, you know, you have Nebraska, who has very aggressively entered this space and is building 5 racetracks and has a brand new Class 3 casino in Ogallala. You still have the publicly traded company Bally's with their track in Denver at Arapahoe Park. And we still compete with New Mexico, Arizona, and all these other places. So we can provide a lot of research on what happened in a country like France, where their racing industry was very fractured, and it ultimately caused it to fail. And most of their tracks don't exist and they run somewhere else. But in Wyoming, to focus our center of gravity in Evanston was a business decision and a economic benefit decision for the longer term. We did not reduce race days between the 2 licenses, but we have better economic activity in Wyoming, in Evanston. It's better for the industry for people to be in one place. That was the feedback we got from our horseman groups, our 2 different horseman groups, that to not have to truck 6.5 hours across the state, but to know that you can sit in Evanston all summer and train and run reduces costs for the horsemen. So there's lots of reasons why that decision was made. We are still running in Gillette this summer to try to see if a smaller meet, which is kind of what was done by Wyoming Horse Racing pre-2020, where they ran 6 days in Gillette. Whether that may be a little bit more successful, and we'll see kind of how that goes this summer. But we're really, really excited for the opportunities in Evanston specifically. So that's the best answer I can give on the questions about the background of why we're running more days in Evanston this year versus prior years.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Any follow-up questions? Representative Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ridgway for being here. This is really a confusing issue. You are in partnership with the Evanston track. Can we say Evanston and Campbell County and names?
It's
Okay.
not. Yes, we can.
Okay. And so you're in partnership with the Evanston track, right?
Correct. I'm the
So-
president of that racetrack. Correct.
So you actually only have one racetrack. You're one entity, but you're claiming two tracks. And the way that I understand this is that you only get 16 race days per track. I'm saying that when you moved out of Campbell County, I don't understand how you think you can take those 10 days and put them in Evanston. That's two separate tracks. The intent, I think, was to create a better horse racing atmosphere and help, even if it's 6 hours across the state to Campbell County, Gillette, that would increase the horse racing atmosphere throughout the whole state. So I'm still disturbed about giving one entity more than 16 race days. So I just don't understand. I think you're taking advantage of the situation.
It's just,
Mr.
so
Ridgway?
Chairman, through you. We still have a lease with the Camplex and we are still running days at the Camplex this year. The 16 days is a minimum requirement. It is common in other states for multiple meets to be run at a track. So part of 307's meet is run at the Wyoming Downs track. Wyoming Horse Racing had done that before, where they needed to pick up days and their lease at Sweetwater County because they had weather days or something else that they needed to make up. Wyoming Downs historically had allowed them to run a couple days at the track if they needed to. So it's common practice in Kentucky for there to be multiple meets at a specific track because it's a piece of real estate. So, I guess the confusion is we were legally allowed to do that and we presented to the Wyoming Gaming Commission, and under their rules and regulations, they determined that as long as we met the 16 days, it doesn't matter where we run those races. And, I've given my best explanation about why we think that was best for the horse racing industry.
Follow-up, Representative Johnson?
Okay, thank you. I understand that you want to stay in business and continue, but I think the intent was to keep horse racing in these different counties. And maybe we're looking at the gross revenues, the gross profit. And then my understanding is that you were taxed on the net profit, right? Is that
That's
correct?
incorrect.
No?
No, we
How
are taxed on betting activity.
betting activity?
Correct. Through handle. We are taxed on
Through the-
handle.
Through the chairman.
Excuse me, sorry.
Okay, I guess,
Follow-up? Well, this, follow-up?
yeah, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, follow-up.
I understand there's a payout to Natrona County to lease their track and you're not racing there. And is that just the intent so that somebody else doesn't lease that track out and be competition in your arena? I'm just curious about that too.
Mr. Ridgway,
Mr. Chairman, through you, I guess I don't understand the question.
could you rephrase Representative Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that Natrona County horse track is being leased out. Do you know anything about that?
I'm aware that we have a contract with Natrona County Fair Board. Yes, sir.
So, and do you use that? Is it part of your horse racing agenda?
Yeah, it's not a back and forth conversation.
Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Sherman.
Okay, follow up. Representative Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry for that. Do you use that Natrona County racetrack as part of your training or schedule, or I just, just looks a little different to me that here's a racetrack that could be leased out by another corporation and actually have another corporation that has HHR throughout the state. So explain to me that the use of that horse track in Natrona County. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you. I guess I'll start by saying we're making a presumption that there actually is a viable racetrack at the fairgrounds, first of all. So we could have a discussion about that and whether that facility would be safe to race on. What I will say is we fulfill the obligations that we have under that existing contract with the Natrona County Fair Board, and it's a legal binding contract.
Yeah, thank you. I think maybe I'll try to rephrase the question. I think that maybe the concept being investigated here is somehow you've gamed the system by locking a track up, right? And because you're under contract, but it's a legal contract that you do have to do, which basically you fulfilled your obligation with that facility. So I don't really see the relevance of, I mean, you've done legally what you're supposed to do. Is that correct with that track?
I'm not aware of us breaching any gaming law, rule, or regulation or contract that we have with any governmental entity in Wyoming.
Then the follow-up question I would have is your entities, because it's, are you distinct corporations between, I mean, are there two distinct corporations in the state of Wyoming or one?
There are two distinct limited liability companies owned by a holding company.
So they are in fact two distinct companies, entities. I rephrased that.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so they're within their rights. I'll just follow up with this, to conduct business in that manner, and to put the two together and then say it's one is in the view of the law, not correct. They are two separate entities. So you can function as two separate entities in the state of Wyoming. So you could, I mean, you'll then have the ability to be just what it was before, with a parent ownership company outside the state of Wyoming. So you're functioning in a legal way within the state of Wyoming as entities go, licensed by the state gaming commission to conduct your races. There's no violation. Have the state gaming commission brought up any issues with you with the way your corporations are formed within the state of Wyoming as you're conducting your business? Has there been any question about that with the gaming commission?
Mr. Chairman, none that I'm aware of. We had to obtain gaming commission approval to enter into the transaction that we did to control the two licenses through the holding company. And that was an extensive process before we were allowed to do that.
But that's a legal way of doing it within the state of Wyoming, to have those two separate entities in a holding company.
As far as I'm aware, Mr. Chairman, we're validly holding appropriate licenses and permits and in good standing to do business in Wyoming.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Any further questions? Co-Chair Lean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Ridgway. This Natrona County contract that we speak of, does the Wyoming Gaming Commission made aware of it, even though we're not running live races there?
As I sit here, Mr. Chairman, Madam Co-Chair, I don't know if it's on file with the Gaming Commission or not. We can find out.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Nick, would you come on up? And I guess you should be able to answer that question, I assume. Could you help Co-Chair Lean out with that question?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, no, that's not something that we have on file, because it wouldn't be considered a permitted premises for us. If they ultimately ended up running races at that, it would become a permitted premises and we would need copies of all that stuff. And if I may just elaborate on a couple of different things. As far as the two separate entities, these are licensed as two separate entities. Our office treats them as two separate entities. They have to report as two separate entities. We don't even let them cross their employees as one entity. So their employees that work for the 307 properties are licensed by 307, and the Wyoming Downs folks that work for Wyoming Downs are licensed by Wyoming Downs. The only crossover is their corporate level folks. So like their HR, accounting, those ones that oversee both of them, but all of their field employees are licensed through separate entities. They're two distinct entities in the way that we have it set up.
Thank you, Mr. Laramundi. So I think the solution, if there was one, was to change corporate law within the state of Wyoming, which I don't think, I certainly wouldn't want to do any of that. They are legal operating entities separate. And I think the issue is, Mr. Ridgway, is that to the public, they would say, oh, it's one company, right? Because maybe they don't understand corporate law. But in fact, you are operating in a legal way within the state of Wyoming. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. And then Co-Chair Lean.
I have a follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My follow-up is for Mr. Ridgway. When you speak about economic development, having been to the racetrack in Natrona County and recognizing that it would need improvements, and also knowing that your company is investing millions within the Evanston community, at any point, do you expect to bring economic development to Natrona County's track while you're holding that contract so that other people cannot race there?
Mr. Ridgway.
Madam Chair, I would never foreclose the possibility of us trying to make that investment. But I would also point out that when we own the premises at Wyoming Downs versus working with a governmental entity who leases a track, I can tell you that there are difficulties associated with working with a governmental entity because you are putting capital into an asset that you don't own. So longer term, there are complexities as fair boards change hands, as you deal with different general managers, as you deal with different elected personnel, and as our safety standards as an industry have increased substantially. I can't tell you, what it would cost to get that track where it would need to be compliant. I do know it would be significant. And so I'm not going to say it's not possible that we would ever run there. But I'm not under any understanding that the Fair Board in Natrona County has any issues with the existing contract that we have. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Follow-up.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Understanding that that is your current position, can you talk to me a little bit about your contract in Gillette, and did you do any investments with their fairgrounds there?
Yes, Madam Co-Chair. So for the first 5 years, we invested several $1 million in that track. We completely redid the surface. We added a rail. And there were some things in the agreement that we were supposed to get in exchange for capital investments that we made, like rent offsets and things like that. And due to complexities with the law, with contracts with governmental entities, we weren't incredibly thrilled with the result of how that contract ended with the money that we put into that facility. And so I would call that a lesson learned in doing business with local governmental entities.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ridgway, just to kind of put a finer point on the issue about your Natrona County contract with the Fairground Board, which is probably technically the Board of County Commissioners, but they entered into that contract freely. And you're fulfilling your contract. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're fulfilling your contractual obligation when you sign that said contract until whatever that contract expires. But that contract you have was with, in fact, the Natrona County Fair Board. And it was their choice to do it or not. I mean, is that true or?
Mr. Chairman, so to be clear, I was on the 307 racing side up to the merger. That contract pre-existed the merger, so I was not involved directly in the discussions about how Wyoming Downs and that entity entered into the contract with the Natrona County Commission or the Fair Board, which I think is a sub-board. I haven't read that contract in a very long time, so I'm not prepared to testify about what our obligations are under that contract, one way or the other. What I do know is we're in compliance with what the terms and conditions of the contract are, and the Fair Board's allowed to use the funds that they receive for capital improvement or whatever else they want to use it for.
So, Mr. Ridgway, you were, I mean, the company had been compensated the Fair Board for the use of that said track. And it's kind of up to you folks if you wanted to, not you directly, but if you want to utilize the track or not, because you've paid your obligation to said Fair Board. I mean, not you directly, but the other company. Very confusing here about time frame. But there's been compensation paid to the Natrona County Fair Board for the use of that track. Is that true or not?
You know, Mr. Chairman, I would have to read the agreement again because honestly, I'm not sure if the agreement defines the use necessarily for the track or for something else, or whether it gives specific dates or even rights to specific dates. I'd have to honestly, to be able to testify accurately, look at the document and then, you know, talk to you folks about it. But it is a public record with the Fair Board, and we've paid the obligations we're required to pay under the agreement.
Thank you. I think the point would be is this is a two-way street, a contract. There's two people involved, two entities involved, and everybody's in compliance with said agreement for the contract currently. That's the point. And no one's getting the short end of the stick here. They've agreed to what they've agreed to. When it comes to a track or the use of a facility, everything's fulfilled. Everything is currently operating as the contract would allow you to do whatever you're doing. The point would be is I don't see any nefarious activity here. You're doing legally what you're allowed to do. And I don't see anything wrong with that in the state of Wyoming when you're conducting business. As long as you fulfill your obligations, you're golden. So unless there's more information that can be brought forward about some sort of other activity going on behind the scenes, I would just thank you for answering the questions as you did and coming up here and testifying. We do have a question I see on the side of my eyes. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to bring to the point that there's something besides being legally correct and morally correct. And I think the citizens of Wyoming have talked to me, and there's too many of these HHR machines throughout the state. That's all we hear. And so I just want to bring that to your attention that if we allow one entity to have two time slots per racetrack, I don't think that the only reason that you are allowed to have the HHR machines is because you're running a racetrack in Gillette. If you're running a racetrack, all of your races in Evanston, that should only be a 16 days time slot. And I'm saying that the citizens of Wyoming are watching this and they're saying there's something not right. Legally correct is, yeah, that's fine. But it's not what the citizens of the Wyoming want. Can you address that? I mean, I think you're gaming the system is what I'm asking you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you.
Yes, Mr. Ridgway.
So let's be clear. We've closed 6 facilities in the last year. I just want that to be clear. Second of all, when you talk about the revenue in this industry, and I heard the word gross profit being used, and there's a difference between profit and revenue, right? So we pay a significant amount of property taxes in this state for the real estate that we own. The two entities employ over 400 people with great health insurance, retirement plans, benefits, and the like, at a very competitive wage rate for what this industry otherwise would be. We pay payroll taxes. We pay a significant operation and maintenance on a lot of these old bars and buildings that were falling apart, redoing parking lots, redoing roofs, upgrading infrastructure. At the track, we spent millions of dollars. We put the purses on out of that revenue. We pay federal taxes out of that revenue. We've made information technology investments in the data centers that we have here in Wyoming with IT jobs, significant IT jobs that are available to our employees to learn how to fix these machines, network the properties, handle the audio visual. We pay license fees for the math models that we have. So, and we pay taxes on our promotions that we offer to our employees. So this particular industry does a lot for Wyoming. The Breeders' Fund, the ag, the races, the way we've grown the races, the way we've grown the race dates. So, you know, I have my own opinions about, we can poll 5 people and get an opinion about what they think they're concerned about. I still think the general public's generally concerned or confused about what HHR is versus the other forms of gaming that we have, because I see significant social media comments talking about the grocery stores issue, which we all know has nothing to do with our business. So I think we've done everything right. I talked to you in the hall about the work we do from a problem gaming perspective in Wyoming. We pay $25 million as an industry to cities and counties, and they can use that money however they want for health department initiatives. We've partnered significantly with the Laramie County Cheyenne Health Department for their environmental surveys and their planning on problem gaming. Campbell County has taken its HHR money to fund its own problem gaming efforts, and we have specific employees designated to handle that. So I just kind of want to point all those things out, that this industry has a significant number of people that work in it, a significant amount of infrastructure, and we're excited to have a significant amount of capital expenditure to come in Wyoming because we're invested here and we think it's a good place to do business.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to stop the line of questioning here. We've got to move on, but in summation though, Mr. Ridgway, I'll just want to say for this task force and for the state of Wyoming, we follow laws, and we don't follow feelings. We follow what state laws are, federal, we follow the law. It's sometimes divorced from feelings for whatever reason that is. They don't always parallel each other, but we follow laws. This state's based on laws. And I just want to make that clear. And I want to say, for every corporation and business doing in our state of Wyoming, thank you. We wouldn't be here without a system of people and revenue, and we deal with consequences. But you follow the law, and I have heard nothing that said that you don't. And I just want to thank you for being a law-abiding, good corporate citizen of the state of Wyoming. And I think we're going to move on to the next subject. And I guess thank you for coming up here, Mr. Ridgway. I don't know if you regret coming up or not, but thank you. And thank you, Mr. Laramundi. And we have, sorry, public comment. Anyone from the public wish to come up and start the conversation? No takers. All right, thank you. And then committee directives. I guess I'll just start off with one. I think that we should look into some of the previously mentioned issues. The purse percentages, I'll just start off on an easy one. With Mr. Laramundi's expertise, I think we can probably look into that a little bit and figure out, do we want to propose some sort of statutory change that would put a floor on the purse money that went to the races. We'll have to leave that blank. You know, we don't know what that number really is right now, but I think it's something that should be looked into. I don't know if we want to combine these together. LSO, would you want to do them separately, or could we have one under revenue? How would you suggest that we categorize these?
Mr. Chairman, Tamara Revley here. I think it'll depend on what the next couple of bill drafts that you request look like and what subjects they broach. There probably is some nexus that could broadly incorporate all sorts of changes to gaming and legal gaming in the state. For matters of policy or policy reasons, you might want to separate them. So once you get all your requests down, I'm happy to sit with the chairs and sit down with the chairs and see what kind of a split you would like, but it's really up to you.
All right, thank you. And we'll leave it up to your discretion and we'll discuss it. If you see things we can categorize together and streamline it, then that's what you should do. But we'll kind of go through these and see what we end up with really by the end of the day. And then we can then have a further discussion about how we can categorize them and not have, 20 bills out of this. So we can do one at a time. Task force, what would you prefer to do? Co-chair, Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask that problem gaming be contributed to from every type of gaming that we have in Wyoming so that we can make an impact for those people that have truly taken up an addiction problem. I know that that's not a quick fix, and I don't have the exact verbiage. I would say as a placeholder I move that we have 300,000 from each type of gaming to make it a level playing field. And I don't know if you want that in its own bill draft or a part of each one. I guess we'll leave that up to LSO to see.
Co-chair, we're going to talk about these one at a time. So we've got one we're talking about now, then we'll go on to the one you want to suggest and I'd say as a placeholder for some number. But I think we have to take these one at a time we can't just pile in right now. I think let's just do them in order. We can go back and forth maybe on what we think is something to talk about a bill draft. The first one would be trying to put a percentage floor on purse money as it pertains to HHR. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Well, we got to set a second.
Yeah, we
Seconded by co-chair. Discussion.
Go ahead. Do you have a discussion?
Well, the representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, what do you mean by a floor on?
Oh, okay, I'll explain that better. So right now, there is no percentage that goes to the purses. It's basically negotiated by the horsemen. And frankly, I think my concern is that the professionalism on both sides probably isn't equal. I mean, you have a very large company negotiating with horsemen. And I wanted to level the playing field and say, I don't know what the number, let's just say it's 3%. And I'm not saying it's 3%, but let's just say it's 3%. We say you're going to have to at least give the horsemen 3%, just to give you an example. And if they negotiate further from that, it could be a negotiation for a higher number, but it can't be lower than that. And I think we've heard testimony from Director Laramundi that other states do this. And I think I believe it protects the horsemen and it protects the industry by putting a floor on that purse money. That, in other words, you have to at least give that much to the purse money to promote live horse racing. That's the reason. Is that
Second.
Can
okay?
I ask the director a question?
Yeah, Director Laramundi, would you come up, please? We have a question. Co-chair Lean wants some.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director. Would you talk to us about the purse money? What does that look like for you currently? Do you review those contracts or do they just get given to the Gaming Commission and you administer them?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, we do review all of those contracts. Those contracts are done, as the chairman said, they're done between the horsemen and each operator. So currently we have 3 different horsemen's agreements between 3 different operators, 3 different rates. Those are contractually negotiated rates. We review those to ensure that there's other things that they're statutorily required to have in there. But yes, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Representative Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my question is more along the discussion lines here. And that is, have we had complaints on the way things are now? Are we trying to address something that isn't broke? And we don't need to fix it, or and only reason I'm asking is because I don't know. I haven't heard any complaints, but.
Well, I think to add a further color to that, this is negotiated in private. So it's basically confidential. So to answer the question about complaints, apparently not, because it's confidential. It goes down to a large group against a small group. I've seen it happen, say, in hospital settings, when you're talking about a hospital against a doctor or maybe an RN in a hospital. 2 different entities have 2 different abilities for attorneys and negotiating and bargaining expertise. So this is a way, and other states do this for a reason. I'm sure it came about for a reason. I thought it was kind of a no-brainer to talk about a floor, where it's kind of, innocuous at this point. But I am concerned about the future. This is growing exponentially. This is continuing to grow. And I think there has to be a floor built in. And the backstop would be to promote live horse racing, to keep live horse racing going and to keep it promoted in a growing industry. And I think this would basically ensure that if we're going to have HHR, we're going to have a robust live horse racing within the state of Wyoming. And that purse money is, in fact, I believe, the main reasons why it's grown. Live horse racing is that the money's grown. So this is the reason. No, has there been anybody who said my confidential contract, which I'm not supposed to talk about, is not right? No, I haven't heard that. It seemed to be pretty low hanging fruit, Representative Webb. That's why I thought it's worth discussion. And this is just a proposal for a bill draft. This is not a vote for a bill. This is just, we're going to start talking about it. And frankly, maybe we find out we don't need it. Then I certainly wouldn't support it at that point in time, Representative Webb. This is just the beginning point.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Craigo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I'm happy for us to discuss this, learn some more about it. I depending on what we learn, I'm not super keen on getting involved in private contracts that seem to be working between different entities. I understand your point. But if we meddle too much, I think we may have the opposite effect of what we're thinking, right? I mean, if we make it so expensive for the operators, they may not have as many horses, they may not have as many races. And so I think we just need to be super careful about getting. Someone earlier talked about the free market. We've been talking about anti-free market for the last hour. And so I just think we need to be careful. I'm happy to talk about it, get a bill draft, and learn more from both the director and from all the operators. I'd love to hear from the horse people themselves and see what they think, but hear from all the operators and as well as the horse, the breeders, the racers, the trainers as we go along, because that's why we're here, is to learn. But not sure I'll be in favor of any bill as we move forward after we hear all that. I might, just like you might not be, but just pointing that out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Craigo, to be clear, the intent is to mimic what they're doing now. In other words, not to say it's some owners, obviously not. But the intent is to mimic what they're doing now. Basically, whatever that negotiated number is, and I don't know what it is, but to mimic that, not to make some crazy number out of it and not to put anyone out of business. It's to put a floor on it. And I do mean a floor, like a minimal floor. That was the intent, Senator Craigo. Good question though. Further discussion, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Motion carries. So we'll have a bill draft on that. Now we'll just go back and forth between the co-chairs. I think on this will be probably a way to do it. So co-chair Lean, your proposal?
Mr. Chairman, problem gaming, that money come from every type of gambling or gaming in the state and not just from online sports wagering.
Okay, further discussion.
Need a
Senator
second
Craigo.
first.
Oh, that's right. Second
for discussion.
second for discussion, Senator Craigo.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess I think we need to be a little more specific and give LSO a little more direction. Are we talking about every different, for example, the director went through 5 or 6 different types of gaming that we monitor. Now, some of them are related to horse racing, some of them aren't, but even though there's different types within the horse racing industry itself. So I think we need to figure out exactly what your intent is there, whether it's based on a percentage, because 300,000 from some of them is going to be a much a much higher percentage than it would be from, for example, online sports wagering or from HHR. So I'm supportive of the idea. I just think we need to have a few more specifics.
Senator?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Craigo, the 300,000 was just a placeholder, and yes, for each one, skills games and simulcasting, live racing, advanced wagering. And maybe the state ends up at the end of the discussion with a total number, and then is divided among the different types of gaming that we have. There could be a different approach to it. I was just using the 300,000 as a placeholder.
Yeah, so maybe I could add something. We could probably talk about a percentage per each one, and they would be an equal percentage. And we'll discuss what the outcome of that percentage is. you know, but we could, Representative, could we also add in education? Problem gaming and education?
Yes,
Okay.
amenable to the
Amenable to
amendment.
that? Okay, so we will have a open percentage that would address problem gaming and education. Is that correct? Oh, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Question,
have-
Representative Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to also include all the problems that are caused by gaming. There's family services, there's law enforcement. There's a lot of money being spent to solve the problems caused by problem gaming, but we're not addressing. So I would kind of like to open this up to the problems caused by gambling. Quite good. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. I'll just speak that out a little bit. I think addictive behavior is what we're talking about and all the consequences that happen with that. I think the way this proposed bill draft is, it's going to encompass that potentially. But to be too specific right now, I think is probably, you know, more problematic than helpful. I think we can deal with that as soon as we deal with the bill draft, Representative Johnson. I think the intent is to get a broad first, the money, the percentages, and then we can figure out where we think that money should go. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just don't want to just stop it at a few things. I mean, there's more than, and I appreciate that, and we'll look forward to working on this.
All right. Thank you for your comments, Representative Johnson. Tamara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had one question. It would be whether this should come off of the top of the portion that goes to the state or to local governments, or whether it should be a new in addition. So when we look at the online sports wagering revenue, 10% comes to the state. And of that 10%, the first 300,000 goes to problem gaming efforts. So for conforming the rest of these, which I would assume to be everything we've talked about today, other than charitable gaming, the question would be, is whether that's a new and additional percent off of the operator's revenue or the state's revenue that's already charged, or locals for different organizations.
Co-Chair Arlene?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. And I would say that it is out of the state share, that we're not touching the county or municipalities share, and that that money would come from the state share first.
Yeah, we'll try a bill draft with that. I mean, it might end up being everybody, but I think we'll start there. Representative Webb?
Thank you. It's not a part of the drill back, yeah, whatever that thing is, bill draft itself, but could we also have some information about how much the Department of Health is spending on problem gaming right now? So that, I mean, I don't want to, if they're spending $300,000 now and we increase things to $3 million, well, you know, do they need it?
Representative Webb, they'll spend whatever we give them.
That's what I'm afraid of.
How's that sound? I think the question is a broader one when you ask that, but we can certainly get information about how much they are expending right now and identifying. The trick is identifying addictive behavior when it's a lot of things, not just this. They're drinking too much, they're doing something too much, they're doing things that are detrimental. It's just addictive behavior. But we could ask, certainly, I think LSO to come up with research to find out just what the Department of Health is what they identified for problem gaming, just what they're doing.
I think that'd be good. I just think I'd like to know before we start committing
Well,
money, what are we currently spending? So
We can make a request. I'm sure we can get the information.
thank you.
But let's back on this proposed bill draft. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Is that Senator McEwen from the heavens talking to us?
Well, I
Welcome.
don't know if it's from the heavens, but
Well, hopefully
yes.
not, right? Hopefully not. Welcome, Senator McEwen. Sorry, I didn't realize you were zoomed in.
Been here all morning.
Have you? Oh, well then, I guess you shouldn't be excused. Please change that as present. Thank you, Senator McEwen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on. Next one I would propose is the topic of breakage. What to do with breakage, where to put the breakage. I guess I should be more specific. To identify that the state will use the breakage. It will no longer be considered profit. And I think the conversation would be around, say, a break on 5 cents. And make that a uniform breakage. And then the funding would go into the probably at this point in the Gaming Commission. We can change that. I think that's a topic of goes into, maybe problem gaming, goes into education, goes into whatever. I think we should keep that number at a minimum, and that's probably still we can still discuss 5 cents. Because frankly, that money is the bettor's money that is being taken for profit right now, being at 1 cent, 0 cents, 1 cent, 5 cents, or 10 cents. I think we should deal with breakage, and we should capture the breakage and use it for what this, propose a use for it that this task force feels appropriate. And maybe at 1 cent, but I think we should leave the percentage open. We know more information about this and how it impacts the industry. I think that's something I would propose is a conversation or a bill draft that dealt with breakage. For discussion, Representative Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would we be limited to where this money would go in this bill? I'm saying maybe we want the breakage to go to the Breeders' Cup or some other.
Yeah, and that would be Representative Johnson to answer that question. Is I'm not fixated on any one place that it would go. I just think that not calling it a profit or calling it something else when it is profit, and I think frankly it's the bettor's money. It's the money that the people that place the bet put into the system. Now, do I want to promote more betting? Maybe not, but I think that dealing with the breakage is a legitimate question that I think it deserves an answer from this task force. What do we think of it? Where do we think it should go? Do we want to, leave it as is? That's the reason why I proposed a bill draft to deal with breakage. And it may be combined with other things to do with revenue. But we can decide where to put that said breakage money. Okay. Seconded by Representative Webb.
Can I ask Ms. Schaefer a question?
Certainly, Co-Chair Lane.
Ms. Schaefer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Schaefer. As you were reviewing other states, I'm going to kind of draw ahead of just a moment. Did you happen to review any breakage in any other states?
Madam Co-Chair, Jessie Schaefer, LSO. Yes, I did. I looked at Kentucky and Virginia, and I can point this out when we get into the presentation, but those two states do different things with the breakage.
Thank you. I think it's handled in many different ways. I think Wyoming's. I think at the end of the day, we need to review it. That's what I feel. Give it a fair shake. Find out what we want to do with it. I think, frankly, we can utilize this money. I proposed it to be put into many different areas. Maybe, there's all sorts of ideas out there that we could have funding in, in certain areas. So it's twofold. Basically, putting money back in the betting pool, so it's not pulled as breakage, and then secondarily, there's going to be obviously some breakage. Say it's on a penny or a nickel. What do we do with it? it's profit right now. And I think that we should redirect that money in some beneficial way to the state's purposes, be it local or be it state, or I'm not set on any particular thing, but I think we need to discuss it and find out what we all think about what to do with it. So that's still, does that clarify anybody's questions? Any- Not now. We'll do it. We'll do it when we get a bill draft, if that happens. And I don't want to. Any further questions? Not seeing any further questions. All in favor of a bill draft that involves breakage as listed as LSO clear on, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify, same sign.
No.
Well, thank you, Co-Chair. Motion passes for a bill draft. Co-Chair Lean, did you have another one you want to suggest? I do have one more. Thank you, Co-Chair. Was to go down with road with a bill draft, probably resurrect a past bill that dealt with a professional gaming commission. And obviously that's probably one of the bigger ones. Now, I don't know if everyone's kind of up to speed on what we've been dealing with, and this is no slight on our gaming commission. I think they're doing the best they can with what they have. The background is they started off just dealing with horse racing, and it's blown into a $2.7 billion industry. And there's been issues that have come up that point towards the need for a more professional paid organization that would deal with this large industry, which I'd actually argue it's bigger than tourism in real money. And do we want to continue with our volunteer group or not? Really, that's the biggest question. I think there was a bill draft a couple of years ago that dealt with this, that didn't go anywhere. And I would like to have a discussion about if that's the direction we want to go or not. Do we believe that a professional gaming commission, for lack of a better word, is the way to go, or to stick with a volunteer group that we currently have? And we can probably discuss in more detail about the challenges that our volunteers are having. I mean, we have people that don't show up, and I just think it's, and I want to, this is a group discussion here. What do we think? This is a big decision, a big question. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really like this discussion. I would like to talk about it more. I just wonder how who's going to appoint these commissioners, and how that would, I mean, that'd be a major part of this.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Senator Crago.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I welcome the discussion on this particular issue. I just think we're probably out ahead of our skis a little bit asking for a bill draft. We haven't heard any public comment. We haven't heard from the industry. We haven't heard from the director about this particular issue. I don't even know where we'd go with the bill draft. We'd just be handing it to LSO and say, and so, I mean, I understand we have a previous bill draft, but I'm not sure that's going to work for what we want to do today. It might, I guess. If we just want to bring the previous bill draft to our next meeting and use that as a jumping off point, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to put our staff to all the work of creating an extensive bill draft when we haven't heard any public testimony on the issue. Here would be my suggestion, Mr. Chairman. Bring the previous bill draft to our next meeting. Use that as a jumping off point. We can take testimony, hear from the public, hear from the industry. And then if we want to formalize that into a bill draft for our last single day meeting or whatever, that might be a good strategy or a good schedule.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Crago. I agree. I wanted to start the conversation because it's a big conversation and I didn't have any expectations of a particular outcome. It's very true. This hasn't been discussed in the public yet, and it has to be. I wasn't trying to circumvent that. I was just trying to get ahead of this and we start, because we're gonna run into a situation where we have one meeting left. And so I guess I'll just ask at this point that we bring back that bill, which is where I was gonna start off with anyway, is to start with that bill draft and have a discussion about it. But to give I guess, the heads up to the public, that is going to be a topic of discussion about the validity of having a professional gaming commission in the future. Whether it's this year or next year, it's coming. Like I say, hats off to those folks on that gaming commission. It's a huge job and the job has changed. It's blown up over the years and turned into a multi-billion-dollar industry, not just a horse racing industry. So with that, I would then ask if everyone's in agreement that we bring back the past bill that was proposed for a professional gaming commission, and we discuss it in our next meeting, and the public and industry, the gaming commission, look forward to your comments about what you think it is, and maybe we can improve it, or maybe we don't move forward with it. But that would be my intention. Is that all right, LSO?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that's more than all right. And just for notice, I believe the bill that we're talking about was 2025 House Bill number 138. At that time, when it was filed for introduction, it was Wyoming Gaming Commission Amendments. It was sponsored by the Joint Appropriation Committee. And it had existed in several forms throughout that 2024 interim, leading into the 2025 session, went through several iterations and different things, but I believe that would be the bill that you're talking about. It would have changed it from a 9-member commission to a 5-member commission, and had the pay be substantially similar to other professional boards, among other duties and requirements.
Thank you, Tamara. I think the question would be, is it 3 or 5, right? That's yet to be discussed. But as the task force, and we don't have any disagreement about moving forward with the evaluation of that past bill. Nope, seeing none, we'll have it on our next agenda. And at this point, that concludes anything that I have to offer. Does anything else on this arena? We'll be covering other things later on. I know Representative Johnson wants to speak about something else. When we get to it, we'll discuss that, Representative Johnson. So we're behind schedule, I believe. Where we're at 11:19. Well, we can start the.
Can we have the director speak to us about summary, iGaming, predictive markets, and sweepstakes?
Director Lara Monday, would you mind coming up again? Co-chair, Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, if you have just a moment, since we have some time, would you be willing to speak to us about what you're seeing in the state of Wyoming when it comes to iGaming, predictive markets, and sweepstakes?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, thank you for the question. So we don't classify this as iGaming because it's not really a standardized regulated industry like iGaming is. The sweepstakes and prediction markets, the prediction markets right now are currently making their way through federal courts. There's been a lot of discussion amongst attorney generals and gaming jurisdictions across the state of whether this is illegal gambling. I'm sure you've seen some of the articles out there that there's been some states that have actually worked at charging some of these companies with illegal gambling. The state of Wyoming just recently actually signed on to an amicus brief with, I want to say 40 other attorney generals across the country regarding prediction markets, specifically on the sports wagering prediction markets for us. The way that Wyoming statutes are written, it says that, sports wagering requires a license and it's taxed in a certain way. And we believe that these contracts are being bought and sold on sports events are in fact sports wagering, and that's being done without a license. So we're monitoring that pretty diligently. We're working with the Attorney General's office, several other states, and just kind of watching to see what happens at a federal level with that. For the sweepstakes and the illegal iGaming, really the iGaming part of that is the sweepstakes. What they market these as is social casinos or sweeps casinos, to where you can buy coins and then you play for money. What we have found pretty often, in fact, at least every week, our office gets complaints about a company that has a LLC that's based out of Wyoming. They get online and they form an LLC that's, you know, a Wyoming LLC, but these companies are offshore. These are overseas companies that we have really no way to reach them, to shut them down. What we've been starting to do now is referring people to the IC3.gov website, which is the Internet Crimes Division of the FBI. But we get those complaints regularly. At least every week we're getting complaints because people are extremely confused because they hold a Wyoming LLC and they believe that these companies are based out of Wyoming. These companies are not based in Wyoming. In fact, several of the ones that we have found, when you start digging into them and you find their address, it looks like an RV park somewhere or just an empty lot. So when we get those information, we also send, you know, when we get these complaints, we've been working with the Secretary of State's office to identify these. I know that the Secretary of State's office is very limited on their ability to dissolve certain companies without certain criterias, but it's something that we're actively working on. And I would say with that, that'll, some of the discussion earlier about, you know, public education and funding some of that public education, this would be a great area to have more public education. We've issued press releases on these websites. You know, you hear ads for them almost daily on the radio. But a lot of people just don't know that it's illegal. And playing on those in the state of Wyoming as a patron, it's a misdemeanor crime.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Laramendi, is there any benefit to these? I mean, couldn't we just geofence them and say this is off limits and you're not allowed to promote these on the internet in Wyoming? I mean, it seems like it's a lot more trouble than needs to be.
Mr. Chair, Representative Johnson, again, I'm not a software engineer and I'm not a software developer, so I'm not sure how that would look. I would say that, again, a lot of these companies are offshore companies that they really, quite frankly, don't care what Wyoming law says. Even if they understand that it's gambling in the state of Wyoming, they put it out there for everybody in the world to take part in. We do our best to send cease and desist letters to these and try to get them to comply with that. But again, a lot of times if they don't comply with it, there's very little, if anything, that we can do to do anything with that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Laramendi. And then to add to that question about can we geofence, and the answer is absolutely not. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work with anything we try because you can go. Doesn't work.
We have. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just our pornography is you have to actually register.
Yeah,
So,
Representative
I mean-
Johnson, respectively, anybody who understands the internet, any child
Yeah.
gets around it.
Well.
There is no, I agree with you. We do have statutes. However, they're irrelevant. And what was testified to about, say, geofencing or age verification, I assure you, does not work. Absolutely doesn't. You can pretend to be anywhere in the world
Mhm.
and they have no idea because you're using a service that you can easily just get. And it's for other reasons you have it. It's not for pornography, but say you don't want your address known, you don't want to get a bunch of advertisement, then you can be anywhere. And they have no idea who you are. And I think the same thing holds true with gaming. So it's a great idea, Representative Johnson, but it does, I can assure you, it does not work. The reality is it doesn't work. You can't stop them. You can be anywhere you want to be in the world. I could pretend to be in Kazakhstan. I could pretend to be in Russia. My ISP will show up as an ISP address anywhere I want and have multiple hops. So basically to track you down is super difficult on who you actually are. But We have great intentions, Representative Johnson, but unfortunately, technology has got around us.
Mr. Chairman, I just wish you had a magic wand and we could just fix this.
Yeah, I'd like to have a magic club sometimes, but I don't have that either. The real world is a harsh place, and I think, Nick, you're doing as much as you can. I mean, I don't know how you, there's no way around it, is there?
Mr. Chair, no, there's not. We just take it day by day and do the best that we can with what we have.
Yeah, and there's a whole nother question though about, say, iGaming, and then say they're legitimate and they're paying what 10% or whatever it is to the state of Wyoming, whatever that number is that they get taxed. If we change that tax base to like 20%, right? The question is do we chase away all these people that are trying to be, complying with the law? And we haven't discussed that yet, but that's probably another day. However, I think people that are law-abiding citizens will generally be law-abiding citizens, provided there's an okay lock on the door. And other than that, people that are criminals are always going to be criminals, and they'll try to get around our laws and do offshore betting and doing whatever. But I think that's just a fact. But appreciate you coming up. Co-chair, you have any other questions, co-chair? No? Thank you, Nick. We have one other topic to bring up here in the morning. Would you like to come up, Jimmy, and give us the brief on what you've done and explain to the task force on your findings?
Chairman Cole, Chairman Lee, members, my name is Jessie Schaefer. I am a research analyst with LSO, and I apologize for my nasal. Got some allergies going on, so I brought my water up here. I am here to present a short report that was completed for the committee on gaming revenue distribution and taxation rates in other states. Couple things as far as terminology goes. In the report, gaming revenue is going to refer to the receipts or the financial gain that's received by the state for gaming transactions. And then tax, it will refer to financial liability required to be paid by the gaming operators, excluding any other licensure or fees. The report itself is broken into 6 parts, but I'll kind of break the presentation into 2. The first half of the report will summarize revenue distribution and tax rates for legal gaming types in the state of Wyoming and comparing those to other states that have similar legal gaming types. And the second half will include some gaming types that are not currently regulated in Wyoming to include iGaming. So getting into it, and I will skip any references to, well, not any references. I'll skip the portions on the state of Wyoming, thanks to the presentation provided by the Wyoming Gaming Commission this morning. So Kentucky is the first state we'll look at when it comes to pari-mutuel wagering, and that can be found on page 5. Kind of just doing a quick overview of the different tax rates. They're going to have very similar pari-mutuel wagering types to Wyoming in live and historic horse racing, simulcasting, and advanced deposit wagering. So live and historic horse racing is 1.5% of the total amount wagered. And Kentucky decides this based on the type of horse that's being raced. So you'll see on page 7, figure 5, goes through how exactly that tax is distributed. And if you'd like to see the different types of tax rates for the type of horse that's being raced, that's on the previous page, figure 4. I'll pause. I'll just do some quick pauses so you can kind of see the tables have a lot of information in them.
All right, well, continue. I'll ask you questions if I see a hand pop up.
Great.
Thank you, Jess.
Moving on to Kentucky simulcast gaming revenue distribution. It is 1% of the total amount wagered, and that 1% is distributed to cities, towns, and counties for economic development purposes. And then figure 6 on page 8 outlines exactly what happens with the takeout that is taken, or the commission by the gaming operator. And then no table for advanced deposit wagering. It was just short and sweet, comparable to Wyoming at 1.5% of all amounts wagered. And then to Co-Chairman Lean's question on breakage in Kentucky, I didn't put specific information here. Their breakage is fairly complex, so I didn't want to take away from the revenue. However, I did just look, and at the risk of oversimplifying things a little bit, Kentucky did pass a bill in 2022 that moved the total amount of breakage down to penny. And so operators have the ability to not do breakage, not take breakage at all, or keep that penny of breakage in pools. Moving on to Virginia, which starts on page 8, same 4 types of pari-mutuel wagering that Kentucky and Wyoming have been looked at. Virginia is a little bit interesting in that their live and simulcasting racing can be taxed between 1.25% and 2.75% based on 3 factors. Those factors are going to be the type of wager, so whether it was a single win-play show or if it was an exotic wager, the location of the wager itself, so whether that wager was placed at a racetrack or a simulcasting facility, and the location of the race, whether that was an in-state race or an out-of-state race. Those different scenarios with different tax rates can be found on pages 9 through 11 and figures 7 through 10. A couple highlights. Most of the taxes will go to the locality where the racetrack or simulcast facility or both is located. Moving on to historic court.
Question,
Absolutely.
Co-Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, I'm on page 9. It says source of information. Is this a new breakdown in Virginia as of 2026? Did they just pass that legislation? I'm on figure 7, page 9.
Madam Chairman, so the date there, that was my compilation.
Okay.
So the most up-to-date statutes, I am not sure when the latest update to these statutes was, but I can certainly check that out. Right. Moving on to Virginia historic horse racing. Operators are taxed at 1.3% of the total amount wagered, and figure 11 on page 11 goes through how that tax is distributed. And then finally for Virginia, advanced deposit wagering is a little bit higher than both the other states that have been reviewed at 11.5% of all amounts wagered. And the distribution of those funds can be found in figure 12 on page 12. And then to end with Virginia, breakage was short and sweet for Virginia. The distribution can be found directly under figure 12. It looks like all the breakage for live simulcast and historic horse racing, 70% of that is retained by the operator for capital improvement purposes. And the other 30% is deposited into a racing benevolence fund. I'll move on to online sports wagering if there's no questions.
Seeing none.
Okay. Online sports wagering begins on page 13 of the report. And quick note, there are 35 states that regulate commercial sports wagering in one form or another, whether that's online, in person, or both. And to note what Director Laramendi stated earlier, operators do pay a federal excise tax on the total amount wagered to equal 0.25 or 1/4% of the total amount wagered. Maine and Vermont were chosen here to be highlighted states just to show a wide range of tax rates for your edification. So Maine begins on page 13, and there is a 10% tax on adjusted gross sports wagering receipts. And then the distribution of that tax revenue is can be found on figure 13 on page 14. And moving on to Vermont, which is also on page 14, there is a minimum state tax of 20% on adjusted gross wagering revenue. That said, Vermont operates a little bit differently in that they do competitive bidding. And so there are currently 3 operators in the state of Vermont that have contracts with the Lottery and Liquor Division in order to be operators, and they've got a negotiated tax rates. One of those vendors pays 33% of adjusted gross sports wagering revenue, and the other 2 pay 31%. As far as distribution goes, all of those funds are deposited into the Sports Wagering Enterprise Fund. And I couldn't find the exact distribution, so it might be variable, but some is used for administration of the Department of Liquor and Lottery, and the other portion is used for the Department of Mental Health's responsible gaming programming.
Jesse,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any information on the gross amounts of wagering going on, say in Vermont or wherever these states are, to kind of give a percentage idea between population and monies?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't focus on that in this research just because it was fairly complex and wasn't really apples to apples based on what I was seeing. We might have to do per capita or something like that. I would be happy to look into that, but I did not look into exact figures.
All right, thank you. I think it'd be beneficial to know what these percentages are as per that relates to the population, right? How much gaming revenue per population base. It'll give an idea so we can kind of get a balance with the state of Wyoming in our situation, because we are the most sparsely populated state in the continental United States.
And Mr. Chairman, would you like that just for online sports wagering or all gaming types?
All gaming types for the state. Just you can have a summation of the activities over there, and then the percentages, just to give some balance to the task force to understand just where we sit.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to skill-based amusement gaming. This can be found on page 16. Skill-based amusement gaming was an interesting type of game to look at because states do this very differently. So it was difficult to find states that have similar landscapes to Wyoming. That said, Arkansas and Nebraska, while they still differ, they have the most similar skill-based amusement gaming that I was able to find. So Arkansas, starting on page 16, in order to be a skill-based games operator, the operator also has to have be a franchise holder for horse racing or greyhound racing. So it does seem that there's a connection there. And for those operators, there is a 20% privilege tax on the net wagering, on the operator's net wagering revenue. And the distribution there can be found at the top of page 17 in the bullet points, 18% to the state's general fund and so on. And then Nebraska has a 10% tax on net operating revenue. And that distribution can be highlighted in figure 14 on page 18. And I'll do a quick pause to see if there are questions on those legal gaming types in Wyoming before moving on to some of the non-legal ones.
See no questions,
Okay.
proceed.
Okay, so moving on to part 4 of the report on page 19, iGaming. As we've heard this morning, iGaming is not authorized or regulated in the state of Wyoming currently, but it is legal in 8 states, and those models also vary. West Virginia and Michigan were chosen here to show a wide range of tax rates. Beginning with West Virginia, which is on page 19, there is a tax rate of 15% of adjusted gross receipts. And the distribution is in narrative form, so I will spell this one out. Distribution of that 15% goes to iGaming administration costs, and that can be up to 15% of deposits into the West Virginia Lottery Interactive Wagering Fund. And the State Lottery Commission can also pull down reimbursement costs for actual expenses. The remainder of that fund is then considered net profit. 0.25% goes to the Racing Association pension plan, and the remainder of that net profit is then deposited into the state lottery fund. For Michigan, Michigan has a tiered system of tax rates ranging from 20% to 28% of adjusted gross receipts. And this is based on the amount of adjusted gross receipts that the operator brings in. The distribution for that is at the bottom of page 20 in those bullet points. I was asked to include sweepstakes casinos in this research, and similar to the conversation that the committee was just having with Director Laramendi, sweepstakes casinos are online platforms that offer traditional casino games, but do not require players to use actual money for gameplay. There's a lot of free play that can happen. And because of this, they may be interpreted as being exempt from state gaming regulations or taxation mandates. And to Director Laramendi's point earlier, I did find that press release that he spoke of from May 2025 outlining some of the issues that the Gaming Commission has with these. 2 states in 2025 did consider free play as gambling activity to kind of assist with regulation. And this looks like it took 2 forms, either triggering regulatory activity or authority for those states' gaming commissions, or incorporating sweepstakes casinos in the definition of illegal gambling. And then the final portion of the report is on the last page, part 6, prediction markets. And prediction markets are a form of wagering on the outcome of future events through event contracts. Event contracts are regulated at the federal level by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC. Because they're regulated by this entity at the federal level, the operators are generally not subject to state level regulations, restrictions, or taxes. And there is not currently existing specific guidance from the IRS to these operators on how they should follow specific prediction market operating statutes, but they are federally regulated. So states are unable to bring in some of that tax revenue. With that sums up the relatively long report. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Well, we have one question. Co-Chair Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the sweepstakes casinos, without regulating them because they're illegal in the state of Wyoming, are we missing out on an opportunity to be able to safeguard our folks that live here? Would the Gaming Commission have the ability to regulate who is here doing sweepstakes casinos if we were to authorize it?
Co-Chairman Lean, I think that would be a question for the Wyoming Gaming Commission and potentially a policy decision on this body.
Thank you, Jesse. Is there any way we can get Nick back in here again? I think there's more questions about probably iGaming, which I'm sure you might not know as well as our director of. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for your report.
He's a business calls.
Open it all in.
And Mr. Chairman, maybe I can fill in the blank while Nick gets caught up to speed. When we look at Wyoming statutes on what is illegal gaming, under 67101, gambling means risking any property for gain, contingent in whole or in part upon lot or chance in any game played with cards, dice, etc. So any property, it's not just actual currency, US dollars, it's any property, and property is defined in the criminal statutes. So the question, I think, was whether there could be regulation of sweepstakes in Wyoming by the Gaming Commission, and whether that, I guess, would be the Gaming Commission would have the resources to do that, and whether statutory changes would be necessary.
Thank you. I guess any other follow-up? Okay, just so the iGaming, director, I guess in a broad sense, iGaming is class 3 gaming online.
Mr. Chair, yeah, so it's investigated now as criminal gambling.
So is there any, with the online proliferation of these other games, predictive game, whatever it might be, do you see any way of regulating that or dealing with that in a way that frankly protects the public? Or
Mr. Chairman, so I do think, I've seen a lot of states here recently have actually written, they have expressly prohibited sweepstakes in statute, just to make it very clear to, the members of their states that it is in fact illegal. It would be helpful too if that was, very clearly added to the Title VI statutes as being illegal. I think that would definitely help us as well with some of our cease and desist letters and trying to get some better traction on, because there's always some sort of way to try to skirt around some of those Title VI things. Well, this is technically a game of skill because you have to do this or that. But if it was sweepstakes were banned in the state of Wyoming, it would be beneficial. We're not going to stop it, but it would definitely help.
do you think, Director, that you could come up with some language potentially that you could work with the LSO that would encompass iGame, all these types of gaming activities without naming all of them, a particular, maybe some as an example? You don't usually do that. You kind of pin yourself in when you too many specifics in there, but some way to make it really clear to the public that frankly, you folks in the Gaming Commission aren't being, I don't know, over the top with enforcement of law, which you're not, but I know you've been accused of that. If we could come up with some sort of language that would identify that kind of activity as being, breaking, it's against our Constitution, as I understand it. It's in our Constitution as an illegal, as not allowing that kind of gambling. I don't know if it's specifically, I think it needs a constitutional change, but we're going to change that in the law. But that's probably an LSO question, not a Gaming Commission question. But working together, if we do decide to do something, Director, you would be amenable to cooperate with the LSO folks on coming up with language that you feel and they feel is articulating the illegality of this type of activity.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you, sir. Further questions? No. Well, seeing none, thank you for stepping back in again, Director Laramundi. Well, then I'll close that part of the comments. Now we got public comments. Any public comments on this subject? Seeing everybody rushing to the microphone, I assume not. Thank you for being here, though. I'll close public comments at this time. Further discussion amongst the committee and committee directives on what we've just heard? No? Well, I'd propose one is that we would go down and look into the language that we just discussed about iGaming and such activities online for prohibiting that within the state of Wyoming, which is basically following on our own current state law and I believe Constitution, but maybe making it more clear that it is in fact in the state of Wyoming a prohibited activity. What does the committee think about that? Favorable second. We have a second. Further discussion. Are you clear, LSO, on whoever takes this topic up on what was being asked for?
Yes, I think so, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure that we're not at the point of a bill draft. You would just like perhaps at the next meeting proposed language, or what point are you at?
Well, I
Research?
think we're at drafting proposed language at this point.
Okay, and so that would be, that language I did read was statutory, so that would come in as probably a change to statute and somehow making, I would assume maybe we could work on the enforcement mechanism and defining adding any definitions that might be needed to make clear any ambiguity that the Gaming Commission currently sees, or ways to try to improve their ability as they see fit.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Tamara. And it's for the purpose of basically public information, that we keep our honest folks in the state of Wyoming honest. You know, then they aren't breaking the law when they think they can because they saw it on their iPhone. So with that, I guess any opposition to that, moving forward with something to consider in our next meeting for a draft bill, and then more public discussion on that at that point in time. We'll seeing no more discussion on that. We're good, Tamara? LSO? Okay. Any further discussion before we go to lunch?
You gotta vote on that, Mr. Chairman?
Why do we have to vote on it? It's just a bill draft. It's just, well, we can vote on it. Okay.
Motion in a second.
All right. Well, I guess we better vote on it then. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, signify by same sign. Senator McEwen? No?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Senator McEwen. Okay, that passes. Thank you. And with that, we'll break and convene the meeting at 1:15. That work? 1:15. What you got at 1?